Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Today we have a very special episode for you, a compilation of some of the greatest entitled parent stories we read over the past year. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a few hours of the most entitled parents you've ever heard of. And by the way, Karen assured me that if this video gets 1,000 likes, she won't try to speak to anyone's manager for an entire week. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And become an official member of the Re-Army today, and I'll give you a shout out in an upcoming video. r/Entitled Parents. Entitled Mom says, "Your apartment is mine." I moved out of my parents' house 2 years ago and went off to college in a whole different country. I've been struggling with my parents' entitlement for a while, and around October 2019, I started standing up to them and getting into arguments with them on the phone. The arguments escalated to the point where they hung up on me after several insults and stopped calling me for several days. They used to call me 6 times a day. I saw it as a welcome break and thought nothing of it. After all, I was 4,000 miles away, right? Wrong. At 9:30 p.m. on a Thursday evening, I hear knocking on my studio door. I peek, and lo and behold, my mother, who hasn't spoken to me in a week, is standing in front of my door with 2 suitcases. Now, I have PTSD, and this gave me a very violent panic attack. I did not open the door that night, because who the heck shows up unannounced at night to boot? She camped in front of the door till past midnight. I put my phone in airplane mode and texted my friends for emotional support. The following morning, I found a suitcase and a note in front of my door signed by my mother. "I came all the way here to visit you and stayed till 0:30, but you weren't there." I knew I had to face her eventually, but I was trying to delay that bit. My university contacted me about a family emergency concerning your house keys. I went to the front desk and saw my mother with her suitcase. She came over to hug me and immediately said, "Give me your keys, I have nowhere to stay." Me, "What are you doing here? Where did you stay last night? I found a suitcase in front of my door this morning. Do you realize how dangerous this is? It could have been flagged by security." Entitled Mom, "I went to a hotel. You're exaggerating. It's just a suitcase. Now give me your keys. I came here to stay with you." Me, "Well, I have classes. I would have liked to at least knew you were coming. I haven't planned anything, and I can't stay with you." Entitled Mom, "We will talk about this later. You need to go back to class. Now give me the keys." I would like to point out that I am 22 and that my boyfriend lives with me. I had to ask him to spend the night elsewhere. I gave my mother the keys to my tiny studio and went to class to have the most horrible day of my academic career. For your information, she ended up stealing stuff. When I went back home in the evening, my mom greeted me with this: "This is such a spacious place. I can set in a couple of extra beds and come visit you whenever I want, and bring your 2 siblings along." Me, "Mom, this whole place, bathroom and kitchen included, is small. You can't add 2 beds. I barely have enough room for myself." Mom, "It's plenty of space. I'll take the bed. I'll put up a sleeping bag for you. I could stay for a whole month. And wouldn't that be great? I can visit anytime." Me, "Mom, you can visit anytime, but you need to tell me when you visit. I have my own schedule." Mom, "Nonsense. This is my apartment." Me, "I pay my own bills with my own money. This is my studio. I am your mother. I can show up whenever I want. What will you do, kick out your own mother?" Me, "No, but this place is mine. I'd like you to respect that. You are my daughter. You don't own anything. Anything you have is mine. This is my apartment." She was getting more and more agitated, and I decided to calm her down. She had rearranged all my kitchenwares and utensils and kept saying she was arranging it as she saw fit because it all belonged to her. It escalated a lot more the following night as she ended up saying I was a part of her and had no right to privacy, but that's a story for another time. Have you ever had any problems with your parents? What would you do if you're in this situation? Would you let her stay with you? Please let me know in the comments. I would just kick my kid out. Entitled Mom demands a kid's birthday party move from their reserved spot and tries to pull rank. Hello, Mr. Reddit. I love your posts and decided to share a story of my own and if you're reading this, just know I'm smiling from ear to ear. Back in high school, I worked part-time as an attendant in a small bowling alley on a military base, one of the best jobs I ever had as a teen. And when I say small, I mean small. The bowling alley only had 4 lanes, but we also had a small kitchen, and we offered what we called extreme bowling. It's when we turn off all the lights, play music, and turn on black lights and LEDs in the lanes. Because of our setup, we were a great place for private parties, most specifically kids' parties. For the most part, hosting kids' parties were kind of fun, and every once in a while I would even get a slice of cake. However, wherever they are celebrating kids' parties, there will always be a chance of me having to deal with an entitled parent, and this is one of those stories. Cast: we've got me, we've got the entitled mom, and the cool dad. Story: it was about 20 minutes into a scheduled kids' party. All 4 lanes were booked for the next 3 hours, and there were 3 to 4 kids on every lane, with a few other adults playing. For us, this was a packed house. I had just got done handing out shoes and started getting food orders when a bat-like shriek took me off my guard. Entitled mom: "Excuse me," while clapping her hands. I knew there was music playing, but there was no reason to nearly scream so rudely to get the attention of someone only 4 feet away from you. I turned to see a wild Karen in her natural habitat. She was short, overweight, was trying to rock a pixie haircut. It was not working, and was wearing too much fake, ugly jewelry for someone not celebrating Halloween. Imagine giving the word unpleasant a face. And right next to her, 3 more kids that I didn't recognize as part of the party. Me: "Hello, ma'am. Can I help you? Are you part of the party?" Entitled mom: "No, I would like a lane and 4 shoes, please." Me: "Ah, ma'am, I'm sorry, but we're hosting a private party right now, and they are using all 4 lanes." "What? So there's no way to get a lane? I drove 20 minutes to get here." Me: "I'm sorry, but not at the moment, and this party is scheduled for the next 3 hours." "Well, can't they just move over?" Me: "What? You want them to move?" "Yeah, can't you just ask them to move over so me and my kids can get a lane? I'm sure they won't mind." "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't ask them to do that. That gentleman over there has already prepaid for everything." Me pointing to cool dad. "And everyone is already bowling." As soon as I ended my sentence, entitled mom practically puts her hand to my face as if to say you're useless and I'm done talking to you, and just starts walking towards cool dad, leaving her kids at the front counter. I try to leave the front counter to stop her, but she quickly gets to cool dad. Entitled mom then walks up behind cool dad and taps him on the shoulder. "Excuse me?" Cool dad turns around, surprised and confused. Yeah? "Can you guys move over 1 lane?" Cool dad: "Excuse me? I'm here with my kids, and we were hoping to get a lane." "I'm sorry, but I reserved these lanes, and we kind of have a big party here, and I don't want to squeeze everyone into a few lanes." Entitled mom: "Well, I think it's very inconsiderate of you to take up all 4 lanes for yourself. Do you even care about other people's kids?" I finally get between cool dad and entitled mom. Me: "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I can't have you here talking to our customers like this." "Well, I'm a customer too, and a business should not operate like this. You should have had a free lane for anyone who comes in. Who is your manager? I bet he wouldn't have allowed this." Me: "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but the manager himself scheduled this party with cool dad, and he's not here today." "Well, call him here. Either you or he fix this, or I might have to report this." Me: "Report this? To who?" "My husband. He's a master sergeant," saying his rank with a smug look on her face. Cool dad: "Okay, that's it." Cool dad then takes out a pen and pad from his pocket and turns to me. "Don't worry, son, I got this." Cool dad turns back to entitled mom and starts writing in his pad. "You said he was a master sergeant? From what group?" "Yes, Master Sergeant Smith." Not his real name. "With the blank group." Entitled mom said all this with that smug look still on her face, but then realized he was writing all of this down. "Excuse me? What are you writing?" Cool dad: "Being disrespectful to our civilian employees, demanding that people move from their paid reserved spots, insulting me in front of my family, and attempting to threaten one of our local businesses by using your husband's rank." The air changes. Entitled mom's smug look begins to fade. I don't know what makes you think how your acting is acceptable, but I assure you, I'm not going to allow this to continue. Cool Dad then takes out his military ID and shows off his rank of Lieutenant Colonel. For all of those unfamiliar with U.S. Marine rankings, Lieutenant Colonel outranks Master Sergeant. It outranks it by a lot. Seeing his rank, entitled Mom's face goes ghost white. Her eyeballs go shockingly round, and it even looks like she forgot how to breathe. It was one of the most gratifying things I have ever had the pleasure of witnessing. If I had my camera on me, I would have made it my screensaver. Cool Dad has now gone beyond the limits of a regular Cool Dad and has transformed into Cool Officer. Cool Officer. Ma'am, can you do me a favor? Can you tell your husband that he can expect to see me Monday morning? I want to have a little talk with him and his superiors, and I assure you, he is not going to like it. Entitled Mom then quietly grabs her kids and quickly shuffles away defeated. Insert anime victory music. As an apology for what happened, I gave Cool Officer a discount on sodas, and as a thank you for letting him handle the situation, I got my free slice of birthday cake. I don't know what happened to Entitled Mom or her husband after that, but she never came back, and that's a victory all on its own. What would you say to a Karen if she tried to hold her husband's rank over you? Please let me know. Lieutenant Colonel, my husband is a general. A re-general. Really? Which one? I'm not telling you. Entitled Dad demands a meeting room to speak with his daughter. Sir, you aren't allowed to see her. So, background info. I worked in a high school in a low socioeconomic area for a while. Now, when you work at a school, you have a database of students' names with basic information like parent contacts, medical issues, and restricted access notes. Restricted access notes just means that the kid is not allowed to be seen by certain people, whether that be due to divorce or something worse. This day was a day like any other, and I was absolutely flat out trying to get work done and deal with phone calls. This dad walks in around third period and takes his seat, seeing that I am busy. Eventually, I call him over and ask how I can help him. Entitled Dad. Yes, I'd like to use one of your meeting rooms to speak with my kid, please. Me. I'm sorry, I'll have to check if meeting rooms are available for such a thing without staff member presence. They weren't allowed to, by the way. Entitled Dad. No, it has to just be me and her. He started to fidget at this point. Me. I knew something was up now. What's the student's last name? And what was your name? He gave me the names and I looked her up in the system. She had a restricted access, not for her father, who was the man standing in front of me. Obviously, I can't see the details on the note, but it does state that there is a restraining order against him. Me. I'm sorry, sir. No one by that name attends this school. No, I know she does. This is the only high school in the area. Just let me talk to her. Me. Again, sir, there is no one by that name here. I can't help you. I'm going to talk to her mother, you bunch of jerks trying to keep me away from my daughter. She's my daughter, and I can see her if I want to. He called me a few other names before leaving the office in a rage. I just ended up sighing and calling the mother to let her know what happened before writing up a report of our interaction in case the police were involved. The mother eventually came to pick up her daughter early. Mistaken for the tour guide at my own bachelorette dinner. Some background. I recently got married to my dear husband last January. My husband and I work in Japan, but we're both expats. So we kept our wedding guest list short and limited to our immediate family and close friends because our families would have had to fly here just to attend. It's a big ask. My husband and I are also very introverted. We don't drink, we're not overly fond of parties, and we're both very close to our immediate families. So we thought instead of having a bachelor or bachelorette party, why not host a dinner for our respective families? We both agreed, and our families liked the idea too. They wanted to spend time with us on the last night before we were officially married. He and his family went to another restaurant, and me and mine to another. My family is composed of my parents, my brothers and my sister-in-laws, my aunts and my uncles. On to the scene. My family and I went to this Chinese restaurant at the hotel we were staying at. My family loves Chinese food, so we thought it was a great choice. We had a whole room reserved for our table, so we had some privacy. Because we were in a room, we had one head waitress who was the liaison between our party and the waitstaff. She spoke Japanese, and I could also speak Japanese, but my family could not. So I sat at the end of the long table so it was easier to talk to the staff because I did a lot of translating back and forth between my family and her. If she asked a question, I would translate for my family and relay the answers to her in Japanese. If my family had a question, it was the same deal. When the third dish was served, she came to ask me a question about the fourth dish. We've got me, we've got head waitress, we've got my brother. Waitress: should we serve the fourth dish individually, or should we let everyone decide how much to put on their plate? Me: individually, please, thank you. Her: okay. She made a note in her order tablet. By the way, this party is for the wedding tomorrow, right? Me: yeah, we're all really excited. Everybody flew in from another country, and it's been stressful, but it's finally tomorrow. Waitress gestures to my brother and sister-in-law, who are coincidentally sitting at the center of the long table. Are they the lucky couple? They look so good together. Me: I'm the bride-to-be. She was quiet for a full 20 seconds, and I so felt bad for her. So I laughed it off. Me: but I agree, they do look good together. They've been married for a good 4 years already. She sighed, hopefully in relief. Waitress: I'm sorry, I thought you were the tour guide. Me: it's okay, don't worry about it. Then she excused herself to take care of the fourth dish. Brother: what was that about? Is there a problem? Me: she thought you and your wife were the ones getting married tomorrow. Brother: oh, you probably looked like the tour guide for our group. Me: yeah, that's what she said. Did I really look like the tour guide? Bro: I mean, everybody's paired off. You're the only one without a partner, and you're the only one who can speak Japanese. You've been talking to her about everyone's orders and basically running around. We told our family that conversation and everyone had a good laugh. I made sure I went to talk to the head waitress afterwards to make sure she was all right. She was. I also made sure I talked to the manager to let him know that his wait staff was exemplary. We don't give tips in Japan, but I would have tipped her so much if I could. Thanks for reading my story. Speaking of Chinese food, that's gotta be one of my favorites. What's your favorite food of all time? Please let me know. Pizza's a close second, and pancakes.
My favorite thing to devour is souls.
Entitled Mom wants daughter's wishes catered to on OP's family picnic they were invited to. My family: Dad, Mom, me, elder brother, and maid, Red, second mom. Loved going on these picnics as a family whenever we had a long weekend or vacation. Me, around 10 at the time, and brother, 13, were in school, and whenever we had the chance, we used to pack up my dad's SUV, 7-seater, and head out on the pond. Now, living in the Middle East, most picnic spots were at least 100 kilometers away, so it used to become a road trip as well, and we had a lot of fun. Now, since there were 5 of us, my dad suggested we bring along this family friend, Entitled Mom and her daughter, who was 8 at the time. A little background: Entitled Mom was a rude jerk. Her daughter never really spoke much and was very quiet around people. Her dad didn't take them on trips like my family, and since we always had 2 extra seats in the SUV, we thought we'd invite them out this time. On all of these picnics, my mom and maid would wake up early and cook up some tasty lunch so we could eat at the picnic spot. Plus, we'd pick up juices and snacks and things like that. So we did the same this time. We had lunch, sandwiches, juices, chips, and all of that. We had prepped the SUV for the trip, and we were on our way to pick up Entitled Mom and her daughter. From the time they set foot in the car, Entitled Mom had her own set of standards. Like her daughter should sit in the middle row seats, not the back ones. AC on full blast because of the heat outside, 45 plus degrees Celsius, which by the way was not affecting the interior, but was set at a crisp 22 degrees Celsius, wanting food all along the way and whatnot. Entitled Mom herself was a housewife, but she didn't bother to bring along anything for this trip except a 500 milliliter bottle of water and her daughter's makeup kit. This already had my mom upset, but she let it go. We got to the spot, which was a hill station kind of place, so the rules to go up the treacherous roads were no more than 5 people allowed in an SUV, and only SUVs were allowed up the mountain. We had another set of friends trailing us in another car, but they weren't allowed up, so we unloaded my brother and maid, and they would wait for us in the car at the base of the mountain as my parents, me, Entitled Mom, and her daughter would go up and spend about an hour touring around, since the latter 2 hadn't ever been there, but we had. Once we got up there, Entitled Mom had a fit because we didn't bring along her daughter's favorite juice. Then she wanted to wait for about half an hour extra than planned so her daughter could enjoy the view. We ended up spending 2 hours extra. All the while, we had 2 people from the other car and 2 people from ours waiting for us to return. We did finally return to the base and had lunch there, where entitled mom and her daughter feasted on what we had made and brought along. We used to take our own utensils, and after eating would wash them and bring them back. Entitled mom didn't help in washing at all. She and her daughter enjoyed the cool air of the AC in the vehicle while we were cleaning up in the 46-degree-plus heat. We then left from there and headed back to the city. On the way back, Mom asked me and my brother if we'd like to go out for dinner, and we were stoked. We rarely ever got to eat KFC. It was just considered unhealthy, and so we rarely ate there. So me and elder bro decided we'd go there and told Mom. Entitled mom, on the other hand, makes a fuss, saying that her daughter wanted McDonald's and tells my dad that. My dad, without asking us, takes us to McDonald's, which both me and my brother hated with a passion, and he knew it. When we said we didn't want to eat there, he said, "Fine, you can stay hungry." My mom lost it, but she wasn't the one to make a scene. She calmed us down and said we'd get some KFC on the way home. Entitled mom didn't pay a single dime for the whole trip for her food, her daughter's McDonald's, or anything, yet expected us to cater to her daughter's whims. When we got home, Mom absolutely went berserk on Dad for ignoring his own son's wishes and letting entitled Mom have her way. My dad said that entitled Mom's husband never took them out, so he wanted to let the daughter have whatever she wanted. There was a huge fight and all, but it ended with us all being upset with Dad. Years later, we found out that Dad had been cheating on my mom with entitled Mom. Do any of you like going on picnics? I mean, who doesn't?
Oh, I hate picnics. There's no managers or employees to harass.
Oh, you'll find someone to harass, Karen. You always do. I do work here, but I think you're confused about where you are. I worked in a gas station as a teenager for 2 years. I was pretty shy back then and worked with mostly mid-20s guys who were hilarious and great to work with. I loved that job, but obviously dealing with public, you're gonna have some weird and annoying stories, especially since people complain at you for the price of gas. For your information, the girl at the till normally doesn't control the price of petrol. Please stop complaining to her about how expensive it is. It was a small enough station with a decent shop and an automatic coffee machine just by the door that actually made pretty good cappuccinos, etc. Normally, there would be at least 2 people working behind the counter. We each got a 15-minute break during long shifts, but if it got busy, you could ring a bell to let them know you needed help. One day, I was working with one of the lads. He was hilarious. While I would always try to be extra polite to aggravated customers, this guy did not care. He took no crap. He had worked there too long. He was also built like a tank, so his attitude was rarely met with much retaliation. He was taking his break in the back, and this older woman in her 60s walked in. Lady.
Hello, I would like a coffee.
Me. Oh yes, we have a machine just over there that serves lots of types of coffee. Just press the button for whatever one you'd like. I smile. Lady, looking at the machine I gestured at, looks back at me and scoffs.
If I wanted to make my own coffee, I could do that at home.
She stares at me. Me. Oh, well, I'm sorry, but that's the coffee maker we have. It's actually quite nice though, but there aren't really any coffee shops nearby. Silence, still staring.
So, are you going to make me a coffee?
Me, confused. Oh, well, I'm not supposed to leave the register. I have to.
This is ridiculous. I am a paying customer, and you won't serve me? This is a disgrace.
Bear in mind, there's nowhere to sit. It's a to-go coffee machine. I was just beyond confused at this point. She storms over to the machine and presses one of the buttons for a coffee.
Since I'm the one doing your job, there's no way I'm paying for this. I'll take my coffee and go, and I'll be telling people about the terrible service here.
Now, I didn't know, but Tank Bro had wandered out from the back and had been listening. He quietly walked between her and the door while the coffee was pouring and folded his muscly arms, looking like a nightclub bouncer. Older lady turns to walk out with the coffee cup. Tank Bro. Sorry, where the heck do you think you are?
I'm not paying to make my own coffee.
You're in a petrol station. We're not a restaurant. Pay for the coffee and get out.
I'm not paying.
Then hand it over. She reluctantly hands him the coffee. which he takes a swig from straight away and smiles. She storms out. Tank Bro tells me, "Forget this job." That was one of my favorite work days. Well, it sounds like that Karen really wanted her coffee.
Unfortunately, that stupid employee wouldn't make it for her.
Friend told me all our other friends hated me, so I made them hate her. Hi, Re-Army and Mr. Reddit. This is my first post on Reddit, and I actually made this account just to post here. But I have been a subscriber to Mr. Reddit for quite a bit, and I love your videos. I hope this is one you choose to feature on your channel. Cast. We've got me, a wee been dead. We've got friend, Madison, fake name. We've got real friends, Jocelyn, Tammy, and Peyton, also fake names. Okay, so this story is actually pretty old, but it made a huge impact on my life, so I remember most of the details pretty well. I had this person that I considered a friend, Madison. I told her all kinds of secrets and stuff and shared my insecurities with her. The problems first started when she started to get mad at me for no reasons. This girl would flip her lid if I spoke too loudly or interrupted her on accident after a long, awkward pause. If I started to talk about something that wasn't interesting to her, she would interrupt me and make it known how little she cared. So obviously, after enough of this, any normal person would get fed up and consider the idea that maybe this isn't the healthiest friendship. Yeah, not me. I kept apologizing for making her mad and running back to her. It's not that I didn't have any other friends or anything, I just hate losing friends, especially ones that I can trust. However, she completely changed my mind and lost my trust one day after her boyfriend messaged me and insulted me. Remember me mentioning I told her all my insecurities? I won't say this one in particular, but it's definitely a huge burden, and he insulted me about it. I got super mad and blocked his number, then messaged Madison like, "What the heck? I told you that because I trusted you. I don't go around telling people you're crap." She tried to play it off like,
"Oh no, I didn't tell him. I don't know how he found out."
But I was seeing through her BS this time. Despite knowing she was lying and being rude on purpose, I still continued to hang out with her the next few days. After a few days of pretending like nothing was wrong, she started to distance herself from me. I was like, okay, fine, maybe stuff is happening at home. But then she started being mean to me again. I was enduring her treating me poorly for weeks, but decided to text her, basically something like, "Hey, are you mad at me or something? I don't know what I did to upset you. Mind talking to me about it?" Now here's where it gets juicy. This jerk replies with,
"Well, actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about this."
Insert every single slightly annoying thing I may have done in the past month.
"Is why I'm mad at you."
So I'd like to briefly mention that I do have an eccentric personality. I can tend to be a little hyper and a little over-enthusiastic at times. I don't want to self-diagnose, but there is the potential that it could be ADHD.
"This is why I don't actually really like you. Neither does Jocelyn, Tammy, or Peyton. You annoy all of us, and we talk about it behind your back."
Obviously, I was mad and upset by this. Who was she to say that our other friends hated me? I basically told her off and said, "Hey, listen, if you're gonna hate me over some personality traits or quirks I have while pretending to be my friend, you don't deserve mine or anybody else's friendship, quite frankly." After that, my dramatic high schooler self decided to text my other friends and say, "Hey, do you guys hate me? Do I annoy you guys?" They all basically responded with something along the lines of, "What? No. If I hated you, I would tell you, or wouldn't waste my time hanging out with you." So yeah, that was settled. Yay, friends don't hate me. But I was so livid by this point, I really wanted to get at Madison for treating me the way she did. So for the next few weeks, we all still shared a lunch table. Madison did every attempt to get under my skin, ranging from making rude comments under her breath to straight up stealing my seat at the table. She got to lunch before I did. I literally did nothing but continued ignoring her antics and plastering a smile on my face, be it a fake one, but she couldn't tell. The fact that her goals of making me miserable at lunch weren't paying off, she slowly grew aggravated as the year continued to progress. Eventually, her irritation and apparent infatuation with me took over, and since she couldn't make me mad, she left the lunch table. She started crap talking, not only me, but our other mutual friends, who all found out because she wasn't a quiet crap talker, and they stopped being friends too. She chased all her friends away in a matter of a month and had nobody to sit with at lunch because she pushed them all away. Entitled Stepmom Shaves My Head to Get Back at My Mom. My parents split up when I was 2, and both immediately paired up with the nightmares whom I would then be stuck with for the next 16 years. Both of my parents' new partners were horrible in different ways, but this story focuses on my real-life wicked stepmother. We'll call her Vanessa. Something you should all know about my father is that he was not an involved parent. Before me, he had 2 other kids with different women that he never saw, so it made sense when my parents broke up that I went to live with my mom. She made a lot of bad choices, but we actually had a relationship, and I felt like she loved me. My dad and I, however, did not have a close relationship at all. When he started dating Vanessa, we met and she seemed normal enough, but after they got married, things started to change. Vanessa hated my mother. Maybe because she was younger, maybe because she was more attractive, maybe because she was my dad's ex, or maybe it was just because Vanessa was a truly hateful person. But the reason doesn't matter. What does matter is that after marrying my dad, Vanessa had it out for my mom. What's one of the worst things you can do to a mother? Take her kid and turn that kid against them. And that is exactly what Vanessa tried to do. She convinced my dad to take my mom to court and to rip me away from my family. The courts eventually decided to give primary custody of me to my father because my mother had 2 other kids, one with a disability, and my dad and Vanessa made more money. Vanessa did try for a long time to turn me against my mother, but I was utterly devoted. My mom and her other 2 and then 3 kids were the only family I had ever known, and I loved them with everything I was. No amount of trash talking my other family or trying to win me over were successful. So when Vanessa realized she couldn't hurt my mother that way, she tried another tactic. She was going to treat me as badly as she legally could and rub it in my mom's face. That is where this story actually starts. My mom was very gothy, and I idolized her, so naturally I wore as much black as I was allowed to, and was very excited to grow up and have dyed gothy hair and tattoos and tons of piercings. When I was 10 years old, my mom bought me my very first bottle of semi-permanent black hair dye. I was so excited, but I told her, "Mom, I don't think Vanessa will let me dye my hair. She wants me to look normal for church. She won't even let me wear black clothes on Sunday." My mom's response was something along the lines of, "Vanessa can shove it. If this is what you want, this is what we're going to do. Don't ever let people like her tell you who you are allowed to be or what you're allowed to look like. You are your own person." And I felt that in my heart. Vanessa hated everything about what made me the person I was anyway. How much worse could black hair possibly make it? Never ask how much worse a situation can get, guys, because the universe will be there winding up the most wicked curveball you've ever seen to show you just how much worse it can get. And that's exactly what happened. I returned to my father's home with sleek, shiny blue-black hair, soft and thick and all the way down past my waist, and Vanessa ordered my dad to take me to the barber and have it all shaved off. My father took me and held me down while I kicked and screamed and cried, "No, please don't cut my hair," while the barber gave me a buzz cut. I was traumatized. My mother was traumatized, and Vanessa hated dragging an already masculine girl to church with no hair, but over time I adjusted and decided to use it against Vanessa. I never grew my hair out to a normal girl's length again and bleached and dyed it every color under the sun, because what's the worst she could do to me? Shave it off? Edit. I'm 26 now. I've been out of the house since I turned 18, and a lot of people are asking why the barber agreed to do this. He was a close family friend of Vanessa's, and she paid him very well. My dad ended up telling me years later that the barber looked really uncomfortable and didn't seem like he wanted to, though that obviously didn't stop him. Well, I'm sure glad she doesn't have to deal with her stepmom anymore. Have any of you guys ever dyed your hair? If so, what color? Please let me know.
Oh, kids these days, nothing you do makes any sense.
Karen and her husband attacked me at a gas station. A little bit of backstory. I suffer from PTSD from childhood traumas and awful anxiety, and on some days it's difficult for me to even go outside. I hate confrontation. I'm about to get my license and my birthday is coming soon. For the cast, we have me, we have my dad, Karen, her husband, and their 2 kids. On to the story. Me and my dad were going on a short trip to Beaver Falls, and he's been making me drive him everywhere for practice. We were running low on gas, so we decided to stop by a gas station that I won't name, and this is where my day went from good to a nightmare. Me and my father had gone inside to pay for gas and grab some drinks. While I was getting some chips, a kind older lady asked if I could help her grab something. I'm about 5'2", but this lady was even shorter than I was, and being the kind person I was raised to be, grabbed the drinks that the older lady wanted and went to pay for the snacks. At this time, my dad paid for the gas, and before heading to the bathroom, had asked me to pump the gas as well. On my way out to my dad's truck, a woman had grabbed my shoulder, scaring me. I spun around and said, "Please, do not touch me." As soon as I had seen her face, I knew I had run into a wild Karen. Karen instantly sneered at me, saying,
"I need your assistance, now."
Confused, I had responded with, "Excuse me?" But I said it in German. I hadn't even noticed I had said it in another language until the lady looked up in shock and screamed,
"What did you just say to me?"
I had tried to apologize because my mind had not yet wrapped around what was happening, but she had cut me off. Cue the famous Ree.
"I should have you fired, you lazy jerk. Refusing to help me and cursing at me in a different language. My kids want to leave for food, and you won't help us get gas."
I sat there stuttering because I struggled with being yelled at and was in a mixture of shock and confusion, unable to answer her. She let out a high-pitched screech and walked away from me like a spoiled teenager not getting to go to their friend's house. I walked away as well. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was wrong. I had just started pumping the gas and stepped away, looking at my phone, still wondering what had just happened when a very large man had just started walking towards me, immediately yelling at me, but I didn't know if he was talking to me, so I just sat there awkwardly glancing up at him from my phone, not listening to what Karen's husband was going on about. He got right up into my face, and my only response I could muster was, Can I help you?" He groaned at me and started with,
"I've been waiting long enough for someone to come out and pump my gas. I demand you help me now."
I started to try to explain, but was incredibly confused, wondering why he would think I worked there. "Sir, I don't work here. I'm just pumping my gas." He looked me up and down and started screaming at me.
"You lying jerk. My wife saw you inside helping an old lady, and you refused to help her. She deserves that respect more than that lady inside."
Second entitled Ree. I had almost started to cry, but my attitude slipped through and I yelled back at the man. I don't know what came over me, but I remember screaming,
"Listen, jerk. I do not work here. Even if I did, I would not have to pump your gas, especially since you're acting like a jerk."
I live in Washington. People pump their own gas. I think it's different elsewhere. Karen's husband started getting even louder, shouting even closer to my face, saying,
"Someone should teach you some respect, you little grunt. Where is your dang manager so I can have you immediately removed from your job? What if I get sick from this gas pump and give it to my kids?"
This had gotten the attention of some others. I glared into his soul. I said,
"I have already told you. I do not work here, and you will not get sick. Just sanitize your dang hands and leave me alone. You're screaming at a kid, causing a scene and embarrassing yourself. I'm pumping my gas. You can pump yours, jerk."
He looked shocked for a split second that some kid had spoken back to him, but this man, maybe 6'4" and 200 pounds, like I said, to me that's a giant, had shoved me into the gas pump. One of the two kids had come out of the car they were in and had set me up, and the other started screaming at her dad. I don't know what they were saying. I was having a panic attack and couldn't move. My dad had finally come out and punched the guy, seeing what was happening, and had broken his nose. Shortly after that, the cops had shown up. I think someone at a different pump had called, and at this point, I was in too much shock to know what to do or say. Everything was a blur, but I just wanted to go home. My dad and the kids gave their statements defending me, and the Karen and her jerk were both cuffed. Man, it sounded like Karen really wanted her gas.
Never mess with a Karen at a gas station.
Yeah, that's like your prime territory for harassing people, isn't it?
You got that right.
Eat my food? I'll feed you cat food. This happened a few years ago when my brother was living at my place for a short period of time. We're both adults and should know the rule of don't steal others' food. Well, I know this rule. My brother, however, does not. He's never had a solid meal routine. Instead of eating 3 meals a day, he eats periodically throughout the day. When he moved in, I told him firmly that he was not to eat any of my food and only eat his own, which he agreed to. The first few days were fine, but after a week, I started to notice certain things disappearing, and I had to do more shopping than usual. I asked him if he had been taking my food, but he was adamant that he wasn't. I knew better than this. Since a very early age, I've been able to tell if my brother is lying, which in this case he was. But I've never pulled him up on this, so he doesn't know I can pick a lie. Bring on the petty revenge. In my next shop, I purchased cooking chocolate, wasabi, canned tuna, and canned tuna cat food. The next day after he left for work, I began. I soaked the cans in the sink for 10 minutes to get the labels off and replaced the labels, making sure to scratch off the pet food sign on them. I placed them back in the cupboard. I have a cat, so the cat food wasn't out of place. After putting a layer of melted chocolate onto the cake molds and letting them set, I coated the insides with a very generous coat of wasabi and then sealed them with more chocolate. The chocolate/wasabi creations I made were small enough to put the whole piece in your mouth at one go, and I made sure to make enough that one or two wouldn't be noticeable, setting the trap perfectly for my brother. All I had to do was wait. When my brother got home later that day, I casually went into my room to wait. And right on cue, I heard the cupboards opening and closing and cans being opened. Brilliant. About 10 minutes later, I heard the fridge being opened. Gotcha. 20 seconds later, I heard my brother screaming and yelling. Ah! What the heck? Oh my god, what is this? OP, what the heck did you do? What is this? I came out of my bedroom with a smile on my face. What's wrong? Faking concern. Brother, pointing at the plate on the table with the chocolates on it. What the heck is this? Are you trying to hurt me? Me. Why were you eating my food? I thought you said you weren't eating my food. Silence followed with him muttering something under his breath as he walked to his room and slammed the door. I had a look in the bin, and sure enough, there were empty cans of tuna in there. I yelled to my brother through his door. How was the cat food? The what? The cans of tuna in the cupboard are cat food. I hope you liked it. What the heck? Why would you do that? What's wrong with you? He never ate my food again. Have any of you guys ever tried pet food? If so, did you like it? There's no reason any of you should be eating pet food. It's foolish. Well, I take it you've never tried those bacon strips for the dogs. No, and I don't plan on it either. Karen mistakes me for a teen mom and says my kids are going to hate me because of their freak names. Cast. We've got me, the magical momster. We've got F, my then 14-year-old son. We've got D1, my older daughter, D2, my then infant daughter, and PO, my hero off-duty officer. Now on to the story. For a little background, I did have my son while I was still in my late teens, and I have always looked younger than I am, so people have thought I was his sister rather than his mom for years. After having my daughter though, I didn't get questioned quite as much until this day. Now one of my local grocery stores, we have 3, has a coffee place kiosk inside of it that rhymes with bar stocks, and to tame this momster, I must have my coffee daily and rarely forget to bring any with me. But this day I did because a winter storm was on its way and I needed to get some groceries in case I couldn't get out for a few days. So I walk up and order my overpriced yet delicious coffee goodness and step to the other side to wait. Son asks to go look at something, so I let him and off he goes. If I had already had my coffee and wasn't so out of it, I would have probably heard the thunder of the approaching Karen, but I didn't. Me, standing patiently waiting for my coffee. Karen. You know it's nice of you to give your mom a break by watching your little brother and sister, but it is far too cold out for you to be dragging them out, and you're too young to be drinking coffee anyways. How did you even get here? Where are your parents? You can't drive without a parent. Me. Looks around, confused to see who she's talking to, and realize there are no other people around, and she's speaking to me. I'm sorry, what? Stupid irresponsible teenagers. You heard me. It is too cold to have these babies out so you can look cool in front of your friends with coffee. You're too young to be drinking it. Bends down to my older daughter. What's your name, sweetie? And where is your mummy? Daughter. My name is, insert beautiful unusual name here. And my mommy is right there. Points to me. Karen. No, sweets, that's your sister. Where is your mummy? Me. Ma'am, I am her mom. Both of these are my daughters. Karen. Insert Mr. Reddit Re here. It's disgusting. A child of your age bringing innocent kids into the world with no idea on how to take care of them. What is your name? I'm going to make sure these kids get a proper home. She then reaches for my infant daughter, who is the happiest baby and has been smiling in her pink car seat wearing her pink snowsuit with a pink bow in her head. Come here, handsome little guy. Let's get you away from me, pushing her hands away from my baby. What are you doing? At this time, I notice my son has walked back, and he is a big kid already taller than me and has played football for years, and he's watching this take place and getting mad. Karen. You are clearly too young and incapable of caring for this baby boy and girl, and you are too young to be their mother, and I will take them to the authorities. My son walks over and taps this lady on the shoulder. Ma'am, why are you harassing my mom and my sisters? Beat it, kid. This doesn't concern you. Me. Actually, it does concern him, as I am his mother too, and you are threatening to steal his sisters. That baby is a boy. Me. My baby is a girl, and her name is... Insert beautiful, unusual girl's name here. Now please leave us alone. Karen lunges for my daughter's car seat, causing it to start falling, all the while screaming. Son and I both dive to catch the car seat in time. Me unbuckles her from the seat to make sure she's okay and calm, as this has made her cry. What is wrong with you? Are you crazy? Karen tries to take my daughter from my arms now. These can't be your kids. You aren't old enough. You've stolen them and gotten your boyfriend, gestures to my son, to help you lie. These kids are coming with me, and you both are going. Police officer appears out of nowhere. Hello, OP. How are you today? Kneels down to daughter 1. Hello, princess. You're getting so big. To my son. How's football going, big man? You helping your mom with the others? Karen, turning crimson, looks at the officer. Do you know these kids? Officer. Yes, I have for years. Karen. Good. Then you can tell me where their real mother is. Officer is confused. OP is their real mother. Karen screeches. What is wrong with you people? She's obviously a kid herself. She can't even drive without a parent. Me. Ma'am, I'm 33 years old. This is my 14-year-old son, my 5-year-old daughter, and my infant daughter. I have the stretch marks for each one of them. Now, please leave us alone. Now, unbeknownst to me, officer has been watching and saw Karen cause daughter's car seat to fall and has already called on duty police. Karen. You are not older than 16. Jumps and grabs daughter 2 while I'm hanging on for dear life trying to get away. Officer. That's enough. Lunges forward and places Karen on the ground. Karen screaming at the top of her lungs. Help! They've stolen my babies! Help! Finally, the officers that he had called showed up and Karen gets up. Oh, thank God, police. This girl is trying to steal these babies and this man tried to hurt me. Me to the officers. Hey guys, long time no see. Karen. Face turns to fear, then pure crazy. It's all a conspiracy. She can't be the mom. Plus, these kids will hate you for giving them freak names. They are better off with someone normal. She then lunges and grabs for the baby once again. This time she's tackled and cuffed and taken away as she's leaving. I'm in shock, but my son shouts after her. Enjoy jail, Karen. And by the way, we love our different names. If you're normal, I'd much rather stay weird. Proud mom moment right there. Anyways, she sat in jail for quite some time before bonding out and disappearing. There's still a warrant out for her arrest, and if caught, I will have to testify in court. But honestly, I hope I never see her again. That's gotta be one of the craziest Karens I've ever heard of. Oh, her heart was in the right place. She was just trying to get those kids to their rightful parents. I don't work here, I live here. More than 10 years ago, my partner and I ran our design business out of an old warehouse converted to live workspaces. We leased one space to live and another for our business with a third partner and 2 employees. The landlord who converted the space, wanting to give back to the area, created a large dance performing and practice space. A small dance company picked up the lease and rented out the space when they weren't using it. This created more than a few problems between the dancers and the live-work tenants. Dance Karens and Kevins and musicians would pay their $15 for an hour or two, believing they had the right to be as loud or obnoxious as they wished, ignoring the fact that the live-work tenants paid between $1,500 to $2,500 a month for a nice place to live and or work. Dancers would change in the hallways and change into their dance clothes before going in the studio space. We were told often, just as we walked in the door, to be quiet, there is a performance underway. I can't tell you how often we would walk down to the laundry room to find grungy, dirty underpants and clothes in piles outside the studio door. As mentioned above, we had two spaces. We lived directly above the building's lobby, and our workspace was directly above the dance studio. I'm a fairly easygoing bloke, as I believe most large men are. Think Great Danes. I have never thrown a fist in anger or even been in a fight. My size might have a lot to do with that, but I have always preferred talking out disputes. Well, one evening, around 9 or so, our partner was working late while we had retired to our living space. This evening was particularly noisy. Drums and dance sticks pounding out staccato rhythm to oppressively loud music. Our partner isn't as easygoing as I, and I knew it had to be even louder in the design studio. It wasn't long before I heard him take a rubber mallet to the floor and add his own pattern to the tumult. He had done it before. I don't think it hurts to give noisy folks a reminder they aren't the only ones in the world, but I prefer to do it gently, in person. As I sat on the couch, pretending to be able to hear the news, an unknowing Dance Kevin threw our door open, stalked up to my wife, and started yelling about how they paid their $15 and they can do whatever they want. I sat and waited for the first break, and with a little bit of a raised voice said, "You just broke into a private residence." Dance Kevin started in again, so I raised my voice again and repeated the statement as I stood up. He stopped mid-rant, took a slow look around, and immediately started backing up. The apologies started as he fumbled out with the knob. I got one more, "This is my private residence," before he ducked out the door. I then locked the door. Yeah, it should have been locked all along. The music was off and quiet within 2 minutes, and we never saw him again. My wife went over to see if she needed to mop up anything. There were many other incidents between the Dance Kevins and the tenants, but this seemed to be the beginning of the end. Within a year, the dance space was converted to more live workspace. It provided higher rent for the landlord and got rid of a lot of the problems. What do you mean I can't look at the food? So this happened like a month ago, and I'm still a bit shocked at how entitled some people can be. This all happened in the span of like 5 minutes. My dad and I went to grab some food one night at Panda Express. With everything going on right now, where I live, Panda does not allow people to go up to the food window things anymore, and you have to order at the entrance. At the entrance, they have a menu with the food they have, so you at least have an idea of what you want. To avoid people from going up to the windows, they use chairs to block the path. So my dad and I were waiting for our food when a guy came in, looked to be in his 50s or 60s, and he was in an electric wheelchair, and just drove in the direction of the windows with no sign of stopping. He rammed into a few chairs before the employees came out asking him to stop. The guy stops and just stares at her and says the most disgusted and annoyed, "What?" I've ever heard. Their conversation went a little like, employee, "Sir, I'm sorry, but we can't have people go up to the windows right now due to what's going on." Guy, "What do you mean I can't go up there? I want to look at what you have." Employee, "I understand, sir, and I apologize for the inconvenience, but it's a health safety precaution we're taking to minimize the risk of people getting sick." "I don't care. You need to let me see what food you have. Let me pass, or I will have you fired." Classic entitled person line. Employee, "I can't do that, sir, but I could let you speak to the manager if you really want to." "Forget your manager. I want to see what food you have." "We have menus right here if you'd like to see one to get an idea of what you'd like to have." "No, I want to see the food with my own eyes. Let me pass. You're violating my rights." After more back and forth, he finally agreed to look at the menu and ordered. For context, there was a sign that said that cash was allowed, but that debit or credit was preferred. "Oh, so now you're going to tell me that I'm not allowed to pay with cash?" "No, sir. Cash is allowed, but debit or credit is preferred." "So now you're going to make me feel ashamed for paying with cash? You're trying to make me feel guilty for not having a credit card?" "Not at all. I was simply correcting you and informing you on payment methods." "Whatever. I'm paying in cash, unless it's an inconvenience for you. I know you just don't want to count money, so that's why you want me to pay with a card. You people get lazier every day." "What? I was just..." "Whatever." After he said that, he pulls out the biggest bag of coins I've ever seen. and just dumps it on a table that was displaying cookies and drinks and starts counting out dimes and nickels to pay. Oh, and before anyone says, what if that's the only money he had, I'm gonna add that he had bills in that bag too. The employee looks at the pile of coins with a face of disbelief and looks over at me. I just shook my head. Seconds later, we got our food and left, so I didn't see what happened after. Normally, when I see people counting out coins to try and pay, I was raised to ask if they wanted some help to pay for their food. But this guy, he was an exception. 1, he disrespected the employee. 2, he's purposefully paying with coins when he has a good amount of bills. And 3, his attitude is just gross. To all who work in retail, food, etc., my condolences go out to you guys because of all the entitled people you have to deal with. Speaking of Panda Express, what's your favorite food of all time? I could go for some Panera bread right now. How we finally changed our home phone number. So this was going on for a couple of years in the late 90s, early 2000s when yellow pages and landlines were still a thing. There's a community pool near the apartment building where me and my family used to live at the time. Since landline numbers were very similar for people and businesses in the same location, ours was similar to the community pools. The only difference being our home number ends in 393 and theirs is 939. Now, you'd expect a person to mess up these two once in a while, but after multiple calls a day started, we bought the current Yellow Pages edition and found out that they actually printed our home number as the number of the community pool. This was corrected in later editions. As you can expect, this led to multiple calls a day asking us about our working hours, etc. Usually you tell people, it's a private number, the mistake is in the Yellow Pages, and they apologize and never call again. Some people would try multiple calls, like calling multiple times will magically transfer the call to the right people, but you finally tell them to buzz off already, and they do. There was this one dude that I remember to this day though. I answered the phone. I don't know the exact year, but I can't have been more than 10 or 11 years old. So little me answers the phone. Obviously the dialogue will not be word for word because this happened like 20 years ago. Hello? Hello, what hours are you open? Sorry, this is a private home number. Okay, sorry, bye. Ring. Hello? Again, the voice of me. Yeah, hello, what hours are you open today? Sir, wrong number again. This happens all the time. Someone printed the wrong number. Who are you? This is my family home. Click. A little while later, the phone rings again. Hello? Yeah, can I talk to anyone else? So I go and get my mom and stay next to her to listen. Mom. Hello? What hours are you open today? Mom proceeds to explain the situation since she didn't hear my previous conversations with this man. But I got the number from Yellow Pages. Well, they got it wrong. Someone's messing with me. I made sure to check the number I'm dialing multiple times. You dialed the right number, it's just not the number you're looking for. So what's their number if this is yours? I don't know. We didn't at the time, only assumed they would be similar. The man then proceeded to complain about how the kid shouldn't be answering the phone because he didn't call to talk to dumb kids, but to find out when the pool is open. Sir, we don't have a pool. Fast forward to tomorrow. Ring, a woman's voice. Hello, until when are you open today? Me, this is a private home, blah blah blah. Woman, voice muffled, obviously covering the mic with her hand or something. Yeah, George, it's the kid. The same man from yesterday, from a distance. Ask them if they happen to know when the so-and-so pool is open if they live nearby. Woman, do you happen to know when the pool is open? Me, for heck's sake. Woman, wow, you shouldn't talk to older people like that. Is that how your parents raised you? Me, lady, please don't call anymore. I have to do my homework. Click. The day after, we finally changed our home phone number. Forget you, Yellow Pages. Well, hopefully they got to go to the pool after all. I'm about to go to the pool right now. How not to steal at the self-checkout. So I've worked in retail for the last 7 years, and 4 to 5 of them were running the self-checkout at a grocery store. We had people try to steal all the time. I got very good at saying, I'm sorry, but that last item didn't seem to scan. Can you try it again? Since I had to say it like 50 times a day, and we were never allowed to accuse the customer of stealing, even when it was extremely obvious they were. Usually, they would try once, and when I caught them, they didn't do it again because they knew I was watching. This woman and her mother that I'm about to talk about were not one of these people. She was maybe early to mid-30s, and the mother was probably 60s or 70s. The first time I saw them, they were both on the same machine. The daughter was using the machine and the mother was handing her the items. And I first noticed something was wrong when I looked at my screen and saw what they were ringing up. Our screen shows the item they just scanned and the price. Their screen looked something like banana $7.87, banana $6.54, banana $5.50, banana $8.34. I was very confused until I went over and saw they were just putting their items, sometimes multiple at a time, on the scale and entering in the code for bananas. They had probably about $60 to $70 worth of meats in their bag, plus a bunch of other random and expensive items. I went up to her, kind of shocked by how insane it was that she thought I wouldn't notice. But my usual line didn't really apply here, and it took me a second to finally say, I'm sorry, but nothing in your bags is scanned. You can't just weigh all your items like that. And I'll never forget what she did. She turned to me, looked a little confused at first, then said, "Oh, okay, I'll fix it." Then just went back to putting her items on the scale and trying to weigh them again. I was speechless. I don't know what could possibly make her think that would get me to just be like, "Oh, all right, have a nice day," and just let her continue to steal. After a few seconds of me trying to process what just happened, I said to her, "I'm sorry, but I need to cancel your order. You need to take everything out of the bag," and she cuts me off and completely changes her tone. "I said I'll fix it. I know what I'm doing." She goes back to weighing her items, and I'm just standing there like, what the heck just happened? So I just walk back to my screen because we can lock any machine from there, and that's exactly what I did. Then immediately called for a manager. Manager gets there and I explained what happened while they're standing at the machine with multiple items on the scale and still trying to keep using the machine, even though it's clearly locked. Manager goes over and talks to them, but at this point I have like 5 or 6 other customers that are also using the checkout that I need to help, so I didn't get to hear what my manager said to them. A few minutes later, the manager cancels their order and they move their items to another machine. He tells me they will scan everything again and to just watch them. Then he leaves. Now they're at a closer machine to me, so I can see them better, and for a while, everything is fine. They aren't weighing anything, and just as I think this whole thing is over, I see her scan one item, pause and look around, then grab like 3 other items and put them all in the bag with the item she just scanned. I was looking right at her. She knew I was looking right at her. She goes to scan another item, and I walk up to her again and say, "You need to stop. Only one thing in that bag is scanned. You need to take them out and scan them again." She just looks at me, annoyed, and sighs. Turns back and tries to keep scanning her next item. I'm absolutely done with this crap. I lock her machine again and call the manager back again. Tell him what happened. At this point, it's very busy in the store and everyone else is waiting on me to help them. So I leave again and let the manager deal with it. He ends up canceling our order again and scanning all the items for them. I would like to add at this point, the woman's mother has not said a single word. She's just kind of acting like nothing is even happening. The daughter is very upset, but doesn't make a scene or raise her voice. Just keeps saying this like, "Just let me do it myself. Why are you taking so long? I know what I'm doing." He finishes scanning everything and they pay and leave. I'm like, thank God this is finally over. Oh boy, was I wrong. These 2 women came back to the store 2 to 3 times a week for months. They never tried to weigh their items again, but would always scan one thing, then try to put multiple items in the bag without scanning them, which was even more stupid than weighing them because the machine locks if the weight doesn't match. So even if I wasn't looking, it's obvious what happened. Sometimes they were together, but sometimes they tried to split up, so it was harder for me to watch both of them. And all this time, the mother never spoke a word to me. When I stopped her, she just looked confused. Then her daughter would come over and rescan the item for her. It was always stupid things too, like a can of soda or a bag of chips. The daughter would always try to steal more expensive meat or seafood. After, they would almost always go to the lottery machine behind me and buy a bunch of tickets, then leave. I told the managers and security every time this happened, but they never did anything about it. I eventually stopped working self-checkout and moved around to different departments in the store. Never saw them again after that, but I was curious what happened to them. So I asked my coworker who had been working the self-checkouts for longer than I had, and he told me she had gotten arrested. He said the store finally called the cops on them, and at least the daughter was arrested, but he didn't know what happened with the mother. I tried to ask the managers for more detail, but they never told me. The security guy didn't work at our store anymore, and the new one knew nothing about them. All I know now is that I haven't seen either of them in 2 years, and I hope I never see them again. They made my job 10 times worse for months, and I didn't even get the satisfaction of watching them get arrested when it finally did happen. Speaking of self-checkouts, do you guys like to use self-checkouts, or do you prefer to have an actual cashier? The good thing about cashiers is that you have someone to complain to. It may be the day before you get married. I know we divorced 27 years ago, but tonight is the night I get your father back. As the heading says, my parents divorced 27 years before this happened. It's always been civil on my dad's side of things. He had custody of us 3 kids and never said a bad word against our mom. My mom, however, blamed every negative thing in her life on him and/or my stepmother. I moved to England from Australia and ended up marrying the man I moved with/for. Coming from Australia, my whole ginormous family was coming, excluding the woman who was now ex-stepmother. Chalets were booked, everyone happy and excited. With my whole family coming, brothers, sisters, their partners and kids, aunts, uncles, etc., we had all agreed to book in the same place and have a bit of a holiday/family reunion. This place happens to have its own little pub, run by 2 friends of ours. We spent the week sightseeing, doing wedding prep and playing in the snow, a novelty for Australians, the first and likely last time they'll see it. Night before the wedding, we all decide to have a meal at the bar. Whole place is practically booked out with our group, so our mate running the place is quite happy. We all eat, drink, and be merry. Stories are told, laughs are had, many at my expense, as I had been vehemently anti-marriage as a kid. My whole aim in life as a kid was to be a math teacher in the army. Poor me. Not only am I terrible at math, but I also hate being told what to do, so this dream was always going to fail. Given that we were all heading to the wedding venue the next day, most of us retired at a reasonable hour. Husband-to-be and I merrily hiccuped our way to our chalet, singing Land Down Under with my sister and her fiancé who were in the chalet next to us. And now we lay me down to sleep. And dang it, who the heck is calling at this time? It's about 4 hours later, 2 in the morning. My mate from the pub is calling and said we should probably come down there. I shove coats and boots on over my pajamas and set off. Get there, and there is my dad, doing his best to avoid my mom, who has decided that this is the moment. What moment, you ask? This is the moment she and my father get back together and all the wrongs in her life are righted. She was drunker than that feral pig who broke into the campsite, drank 3 six-packs, and tried to fight a cow. Dad didn't want to leave her at the bar alone, but he also didn't want to walk her back to her chalet and have her get the wrong idea, so he had asked my mate to call me. I try and unwind her arms from him. She shrieks at me. Dad takes the opportunity to run away, and I'm left with her. It's only about 100 meters to her chalet, so I start to walk her home. She starts crying and telling me the following. Mom, your father loves me still. I know it. Me. Mom, can you just stop and think about what you're doing? Mom. It's been so long since I had a man like your father. He satisfied me more than anyone I've been with. He's got to... Me. Seriously, no thanks. You can stop. He just makes me tremble. At this point, I stop walking. I hold her shoulders, look her in her very drunk eyes, and tell her that that's way too much information. She bursts into tears and told me that I ruined it all. I asked her to explain. Apparently, my wedding was going to be the catalyst for their getting back together, and she was going to give this to me for my wedding present, having 2 united parents to hold my hand and walk me down the aisle. She then starts shouting that it would all have worked and I had to ruin it by showing up just when she was making her move. I sigh again. I sigh once more for good measure and then ask her if she could please, just for this week, keep her crap tidy and calm. I remind her that I'm getting married and that I didn't really want to be standing ankle deep in the snow at 2 in the morning listening to her talk about manipulating my dad into getting with her. Readers, she toddlered me. She sat in the snow, crying and refused to move until I told her that she could get back together with my father. So I left her there. I believe the snow worked its wonders on her burning loins because she didn't bother my dad about getting back together again. Tragically, it didn't stop her general entitlement. She still made her best effort at the wedding to attention seek and cause drama. Have you ever had a relationship from your past that you just couldn't let go of? Does anyone stay on your mind even years after you broke up with them? Please let me know.
Oh, my dear Kevin, if only things had been different.
Got my freshman dorm leader fired a year after he called the cops on me. I first got to college my freshman year and met the dorm leader. Like most colleges, the dorm leader was the upperclassman that lived in the dorms and monitored the freshman halls. My dorm leader's name was Julio, fake name by the way, and at first he seemed like a nice dude that minded his own business. He talked about how he would stay out of everyone's business if we would stay out of his. Also, he tried to be the cool dorm leader and always mentioned to me about how he drank a lot his freshman year in the dorms. He gave off the impression he really didn't care if we ever drank in our dorm rooms, but to just keep it on the low if we did. I really didn't drink much at all, but I appreciated the fact he seemed pretty normal and didn't try to rat on anyone. During the last week of September of my freshman year of college, I had one of the hardest weeks of my academic career. I was a biochemistry major, taking some pretty tough classes and had 3 exams that week. At the end of the week, a friend I had recently made down the hall invited me to his dorm room to watch an upcoming NBA game. As we were watching the game, he had a bottle of vodka and gave some to the guys in the dorm. Being a naive and stupid freshman kid just trying to make some friends, I took one shot and continued to watch the game. As we're watching the game, one of the guys in the dorm spills a bottle of soda and rushes to the bathroom to grab some paper towels. As he walks out of the dorm room, Julio walked by and noticed the bottle of vodka. He laughed and said something of the sorts of, "I remember when I was a freshman, haha, just try and keep it down." We thanked him and told him to have a good night. It seemed like a normal conversation and nothing out of the ordinary. 30 minutes later, we hear a knock on the door and 2 policemen showed up with breathalyzers. They told us they had received a complaint from Julio about us drinking and a party being thrown in the dorm room. Remember, it was 3 guys watching a Lakers game on a Thursday night at 8 p.m. I ended up getting charged, had to do 20 hours of community service, a reflection journal, and appear to the Judicial Affairs Center at my college about my supposed drinking problem. I'm not blaming the officer for giving me a ticket, but I was pretty upset that Julio, who always talked about his own drinking freshman year in the dorm, called the police right after he essentially gave us the okay for the night. A few weeks later, I see Julio and straight up asked him why he decided to rat me out. Specifically, I asked why he didn't just tell me to head back to my dorm if he had a problem with us instead of calling the police right after our conversation. He responds word for word with, "You made a decision and you had to suffer the consequences of that decision." After that incident, I never really talked to him, but he always tried to be buddy-buddy when he saw me in the hallway. Anyway, I eventually leave the dorms and move off campus for my sophomore year. I had decided to rush a fraternity my freshman year and ended up meeting some really nice guys. I have never been the fraternity type, but I went to a smaller college where fraternities are a lot different than most places. During the second semester of my sophomore year, my fraternity was taking a new pledge class. One day I received a text from Julio saying, "One of the guys pledging your fraternity has been caught dealing alcohol to another freshman in the dorms. I thought I would let you know." Turns out Julio was the dorm leader for a freshman pledging my fraternity and ratted him out to Judicial Affairs as well. Thinking the term dealing alcohol was the lamest, funniest thing I have ever heard, I sent that to our fraternity group me and everyone laughed about it. About a week later, that kid pledging our fraternity came up to me asking about the message I received from Julio. Essentially, a pretty similar thing happened to him like what's happened to me. Julio found out he had given someone else in the dorm a bottle of wine and reported it to the police. This kid was charged and had to speak with Judicial Affairs. This is where the story gets hilarious. In his meeting with Judicial Affairs, the kid pledging our fraternity told them that his dorm leader, Julio was now a senior at this point, had texted me about the charges pending against him. Apparently, it's a huge violation to discuss pending charges against a freshman in your dorm to a third party. The Judicial Affairs guy told him that if he could prove Julio was discussing this charge with a third party, aka me, he would receive severe sanctions. Basically, if I sent that text to the Judicial Affairs people, Julio would be in a crapload of trouble. So I sent the text that night to the judicial affairs people. After that, I didn't hear anything about what happened to Julio and had honestly forgotten about it. However, nearing the end of the school year in my sophomore year, I saw Julio at the dining hall and came up to speak to him. He tells me a story about how he knows I was the one that ratted him to judicial affairs, how he ended up getting fired from his dorm leader position, lost the scholarship money his dorm leader job provided him, and overall how crappy his life has been since he got fired. After going through his entire sob story, he asked me, "Why did you do that? This could have been handled completely differently. I didn't have to get fired, and I could have kept my scholarship money." I looked him dead in the eye for what seemed like 30 seconds and say, "Julio, you made a decision and had to suffer the consequences of that decision." Well, it sounds like Julio got a little more than he bargained for. Oh, he did nothing wrong. He was trying to stop those freshmen from doing things they weren't supposed to be. What do you guys think? Do you think Julio was in the wrong, or was he just trying to do his job? Please let us know in the comments below. What do you mean security guards are here to enforce the rules? Like many other companies, my work requires workers and guests to get their temperatures checked by security before they can enter the building. Since the admin building is separate from the main building, admin staff and their guests go to the main building to get their temperatures taken before they go into admin. Also, face masks are required in the main building, but not in the admin building. Like any normal day, I cover the admin reception desk so the receptionist can take her lunch. It's an easy job, just answering the phones, directing people to the correct building, and telling those who ask that no, I don't know where the boss is. So here I am, minding my own business, when in wanders a guest. She is breathing hard from the long walk from the parking lot, and she's sweating bullets. Her name is Miss Karen, she says, and she is here to get an affiliate ID card. I tell her to have a seat, which she does gratefully, and make a few phone calls to figure out where she belongs. The person she needs to see has stepped out of the office, so in the meantime, seeing that she has caught her breath, I send her to the main entrance to get her temperature taken. A few minutes pass. I transfer a few phone calls. I tell another employee that no, I do not know where the boss is right now. Try the executive secretary. Then Miss Karen comes back. She is walking quickly, her face a picture of righteous indignation. I brace myself. "That employee over there was so rude to me." Me. "I'm sorry, ma'am. What seems to be the problem?" "That worker was sarcastic and smart-mouthed and rude. And who do I complain about this to?" At this point, I realize that 1, I am not getting paid enough for this, and 2, if I give her what she wants, she might go away. Me. "Let me get you her supervisor." I get the security supervisor on the phone. He agrees to speak to Miss Karen, but I can tell from his tone of voice that he has mentally checked out of the situation. I don't blame him. I give Miss Karen the phone so I don't have to play go-between and listen as she lists the atrocious wrongs that have been done to her. The security guard asked her if she had a mask when it was clearly hanging from one ear. The security guard asked her to put on the mask. The security guard asked her to put on the mask properly. The security guard who took her temperature was not, in fact, a nurse. Nowhere else she has been to required a temperature check, so why here? Why does she have to wear a mask in the main building when the admin staff don't have them wear them in their building? It's discriminatory. I plan my sincere apology to the security guard and her supervisor while frantically trying to get a hold of the person Miss K is here to see. Eventually, Miss K finishes her phone call, looking smug, and sits back down. I pretend to be busy in between phone calls to avoid attracting her attention, and eventually she gets where she needs to be. When the receptionist got back to her desk, we shared a laugh. Little did Miss K know that the supervisor cares more about the safety of the building than the customer service skills of his staff, that the security guard doesn't care what Karen thinks of her, and that the only result of her complaint is that staff members will laugh at her behind her back whenever she visits. What is it with Karens and their problems with masks? The problem is you're trying to force us to do something we don't want to. Always let the employee get a word in. A couple years ago, I was working at a discount clothing store. The kind of store that would have their own brands who looked like popular expensive brands for a fraction of the cost. Now, due to this, we had low staff numbers, high staff turnover, and archaic machines that ran on Windows 94. This also meant we would have to do all price changes by hand and that the scan tags on the clothing didn't work half the time, including sales, which happened pretty much 24/7 there. Instead, we would have to figure out what the low poly image on the computer was or try and scour the store to see if we had an item. We were a big target for tourists, as most of our shirts were cheap and had Canada written in big letters on them. Due to this, I would frequently get the bizarre barters who would bring up 50 shirts to the counter and ask, because they're buying all these 5 for $10 shirts, can they get some for free? After which you'd tell them no, they'd buy 5 and leave the other 45 for you to fold. But we had one guy that took the cake. We were having a huge blowout sale happening to get rid of our overstock on a type of shirt that didn't sell well, and they were being marked down to 10 for $5. The company really wanted them gone to the point we were told to throw them on for free. However, like I said, we had to do price downs by hand, and due to company policy, could not give them the deal until the sale adjustment was complete. So this guy walks in all bombastic, sizing me and my only other coworker up, while in his cheap polyester suit, wanting to buy around 20 shirts off of the problem shirt rack. Only problem is, we haven't priced them down due to lack of materials and time. Busy day. So they still read $5 each. Still a pretty good price for a shirt. He slams down the shirts. We greet him with the salesman's smile plastered to our face. Go on about, is everything okay, etc., when he cuts us off. He demands that we shut up and take his money so he can get out of, and I quote, this stinky mall. Of course, me being a decent person, I try to point out the new sale, and I was even going to honor it despite the lack of manners, but he wouldn't have it and said, don't feed me your salesman BS. I just want my shirts and I want to leave. Is that too hard for your thick head to understand? So, in classic malicious compliance, I ring up the shirts, take his card, and carefully tell him and write on his receipt, no refunds. We couldn't do this on sale items anyways, and as all items are on sale all the time, we could never take any items back. I enjoyed his face, where after the fact I put the 10 for $5 sign up on the rack he had just purchased. He tried to fight it, but ultimately lost after security dragged him out for trying to throw a punch at me in anger. This one stuck out, but man did this sort of stuff happen all the time at that store. Thankfully, I've moved on from that job and now have a comfy spot at another store with great bosses, coworkers, and a functioning automatic price system. Well, just goes to show you, always let your cashier explain what they're trying to say to you. Unless they're an idiot. Karens are starting to realize some of the dynamics have changed. Last week, glorious night. Party of 6 comes in headed by a Karen. Wants 2 4-top, high-top tables pushed together. Host says can't do it. Social distancing. You'll be too close to the other table next to you now. Let me speak to the manager. She's calm, just insistent, and it's obvious she's played this card before. I roll up. How can I help? Can we push these 2 tables together? No, can't. Social distancing, and now you're too close to the next table. You can have that table that's for 6 in the corner. You can have that booth for 6 after we clean it, or you can have that table for 6 outside after they get up, about 10 minutes. All the while, I'm pointing to each table like I'm showing them emergency exits on an airplane. You can't push those tables to... No, we will not be moving tables. You can have, and I point to the tables again. You know what I think? She begins turning to her friend. You know what I think? Both of them together. We go somewhere else. At this point, I clap my hands together and say, thank you and have a great night, and immediately turn around and walk away. The best part is Karen stares at the back of my head for a solid 2 seconds before she shuffled out. I didn't realize this until I watched the video of the exchange. Easily made number 3 in my career highlight reel, but only one of the handful of Karen moments since we reopened. The Karens decided to leave the restaurant? Oh, that poor manager. Oh, don't feel bad for him, Mr. Reddit. He didn't deserve to have them in his restaurant anyway. Entitled mom refuses to move her car when I tell her to, so I write her a ticket. I work at an airport. Federal regulations prohibit vehicles parking next to the terminals. My job is to tell people this and have them take a loop around or go wait in a park and wait area. Most people understand and drive off. The people who always give me a hard time are the elderly ladies. Anyway, cast. We've got entitled mom, we've got poor son, and me. We get drivers coming to pick up their people in waves due to multiple flights landing around the same time. Drivers will then pull up to the nearest open curb and park. What we do is break the stretch up section by section and start from the area closest to exit and work our way down. I had just finished telling a vehicle to take a loop when entitled mom comes speeding down the road and wedges her way into the slot I just made. When this happens, we don't say or do anything because often their person is on the sidewalk ready to go. I'll finish talking to the cars that have been there a minute and then come back. When I go back to her, I give her the same phrasing as everyone else. Hi, unfortunately, there's no parking and waiting. Active loading only. If your party is not out here, you're going to have to take a loop around, alright? Entitled mom. Oh no, my son is coming out right now. Me. Okay, ma'am, I can give you another minute, but if he's not out by the time I start walking back to you, you'll have to leave. I then stroll off before she can say anything. Usually when I say that line, people try to argue and ask for more time or get angry. So to prevent that, walking away is the best option. I finish the section again and head back. Now, doing a section usually takes about 5 minutes, so she's had plenty of time. Me, tapping on her window to get her attention. Still no luck? No, he's coming soon. Unfortunately, ma'am, you'll have to go around it this time. Just get into the leftmost lane and you'll see a sign that says return to terminal. Only a 4-minute drive. Entitled mom. I'm not going. He's so close to coming out. Ma'am, if you're still here when I come back, you're getting a ticket. Hearing this, her inside Karen awoke. Karen. You have no right to threaten me in such a way. I am a tax-paying citizen, so my money paid for this airport. I can wait as long as I want. I don't argue with people, but I did notice the section was full again, so I just walked away. Finish it again in another 5 minutes, and she's still there. At this point, I pull out my ticket book as I am walking to her vehicle. Everyone on the sidewalk is smirking and giggling a little. They're enjoying the drama. I walk right past her window and stand in front of her car and start writing her plates. Entitled mom. What do you think you're doing? You have no authority. You're not even a police officer. This is true. I am not police. However, I am airport operations. I have to enforce airport safety and protocol. When acting on behalf of my job, what I say is just the same as if it were from a cop. Me. Ma'am, I have told you several times you'd have to take a loop around. Plus, you've had over 15 minutes to wait. She continues to yell at me, trying to create a scene and make me nervous to stop writing the ticket. It's also policy to not hand the person the ticket. We are to put it under the windshield wiper. I do just that. However, just before I do, I get a feeling to call control. Not ATC, but airport control, and request a camera be out on me, just for safety. Entitled mom. Now you're trying to break my property. I want to talk to your manager, because you're getting fired. Me. Ma'am, I'll be more than happy to call a supervisor. However, about breaking your property, we have video evidence I did no such thing. The entitled mom keeps going off. I can take it. The section is mostly empty. However, there's still a lot of passengers on the sidewalk, just watching the whole scenario. She then gets out of her vehicle and says something like, well, since I've already been ticketed, I'm just going to go find my son. The ticket she was given was for airport signs and markings. There's a different code for an unattended vehicle. Me, being the cold-hearted jerk I am, let her walk away. Gave it a minute, wrote her another ticket, and called for a tow truck to take it away. The entitled mom comes right when the tow truck starts backing up to lift her front wheels. What the heck are you doing? Me. Unattended vehicles must be towed away. See, son? I told you he was discriminating me and targeting me only because I am a woman. You need to do something. Son. Sir, how long has my mom been parked here? Me. I'd say about 40 minutes. Mom, you know that's way too long. Son shakes his head, and before his mom can start to say something, he says loudly, let's cut our losses right now and leave, before it gets towed all the way away. If a vehicle is towed, it is an additional $50. But even if the tow truck touches the vehicle, it's $25 to the driver of the tow truck. The son comes over to me while his mom gets in the passenger seat.
I'm sorry for what she said to you.
If anyone apologizes to me, I call it good. I tell him it's whatever, and then he thanks me for being patient. Because he is being so nice, I decide to teach his mom a lesson. Me. Because you're being very polite and reasonable, I'll waive the $25 towing fee.
Thanks, I really appreciate that. I'll be getting out of here right now.
He then turns to the whole crowd.
I am sorry for how my mother behaved and acted. If she offended anyone, I am so sorry.
I take it he wanted to teach her a lesson too. I figure, let's add on to it. Me. Sir, because people like you make my job easy, fun, and nice, I'll also void the second ticket. I grab it and walk away. Have any of you guys ever gotten a ticket of any sort? If so, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Oh, I get tickets all the time, but I never pay them. I'm sure you don't. You stole cheese, so you should give it to me. So a little background information. I work in a pretty big cheese factory, and every month we get a huge block of cheese from the factory to take home with us. Since the cheese is made in the factory I work, it is wrapped in plastic foil, and it doesn't have any brand name or logo written on it whatsoever. This will be important information for later in the story. Today was a day we received a block of cheese, and when I was done with work, I went to the supermarket to do some groceries. My cheese was in my backpack when I was using the self-checkout, that thing where you scan your own groceries and pay without having contact with a cashier. While I was scanning my groceries, there was a woman next to me, entitled parent, who looked, well, like a 40-year-old who still thinks she is 15. She was giving me weird looks while I was putting the groceries in my bag, but I thought nothing of it, since people often look weird at me after I go somewhere after work. As you can expect, working in a cheese factory doesn't exactly give you a nice body odor. I've been given comments about this from strangers from time to time, but when I say that I work with cheese, they apologize and say they understand. Until she decided to speak to me. We've got me. We've got entitled parent, the Karen with a midlife crisis. We've got the store attendant and the supermarket manager, entitled mom. Excuse me? Me. Sorry, what's the problem, madam? I think you forgot to scan that block of cheese. Points to block of cheese in my bag. Me. Oh, sorry, that's not from here. I work at a factory where we get these every month for free, but I understand the confusion. So, you stole it? Me. No, madam. Like I said, every employee gets cheese from the company. I didn't steal anything. By this time, I was done with checking out, and I was feeling kind of anxious by entitled parent and her accusation, so I grabbed everything and left quickly to refrain from the discussion getting out of hand, and went to the customer service counter to buy cigarettes. In my country, you have to buy them there. At this moment, I thought it was over, but as always with entitled parents, it's never over when you think you lost them. As I was paying for the cigarettes, entitled parent decided to show up behind me and started screaming in the most awful voice. She is stealing! I caught her, but she is lying and is trying to get away with it. This is why this country is becoming more of a crap show. Me, turning around with the biggest, really bruh, face. Madam, I just told you that. Check her bag! There is a huge block of cheese there that she is trying to steal. Store attendant faces towards me. Madam, may I check your bag? I say no problem and grab the block of cheese while I explain to her about the free cheese deal from my company. All this while entitled parent is screaming, "Lies!" in the background. In the meanwhile, store manager noticed the ruckus and came to ask what was happening. Of course, entitled parent immediately faces towards her and starts ranting about how dare they allow thieves in their store. Manager faces towards me and asks, "Miss, is this true?" Me, not in the slightest. Like I just said to your colleague, I get this cheese from work every month. You can even check security cameras if you'd like. Yes, do that. She is trying to get away with it. And then suddenly store attendant decided to say something. Manager, I think this girl isn't lying. This cheese is wrapped in plastic foil and it doesn't have any brand name. Nor do we sell fresh blocks of cheese here. They only sell packaged blocks. After hearing this, entitled parent's face turns pale. And again, when I thought it was over, it wasn't.
Well then, if you got it for free, you should give it to me since I'm a stay-at-home mother and I deserve it more. Give it to me.
Me, store assistant, and store manager, 10 seconds of absolute silence to think about what the heck was actually happening. Manager: Madam, please keep it down. This girl didn't steal anything nor bother anyone. So let her be, or else I'm going to ask you to leave.
But it's not fair. I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I'm an essential worker, so I deserve it, and not this young brat.
Manager: But she got this from work, and if she is still working, doesn't that make her an essential worker? After this, entitled parent Usain bolted out of the store while mumbling something about immigrants getting everything they want. I'm not an immigrant, but since I do have dark hair and eyes, people never believe me when I say I don't have roots from any other country. I thanked the store manager and attendant and apologized for wasting their time on such a weird matter. Do any of you guys like cheese? If so, what's your favorite cheese of all time? Please let me know.
Mine is either brie or ricotta.
Entitled mom demands the school have a graduation party for her 6th grader. Not my story, but this happened to my mom a couple of hours ago. She's the representative of 6th grade at the Parent Association of my brother's elementary school. She's had to deal with a ton of crap from the parents lately because of what's going on, but this last incident gets the prize. We were watching a movie, my mom, my siblings, and I, when suddenly we hear our mom's phone being bombarded with notifications. She checks what all the fuss was about. It was just one mom. Then immediately, before she could read the messages, the entitled mom called. She paused the movie and said, "Excuse me for a minute." The moment she answers, I kid you not, I thought it was on speaker because of how loud the scream was. Entitled mom was crying and shouting, and her words were barely understandable, except for the swearing. The swearing was quite noticeable. My mom gave us a look. This wasn't gonna take a minute. My mom put on a smile and said, "Entitled mom, what happened? I can barely understand you. Try to calm down, okay?" Entitled mom calmed down a bit, enough for us to understand. "What's the problem?" my mom asks again. This is how the conversation unfolded. Entitled mom:
It's unfair that the school isn't going to organize the graduation party this year.
My mom: Well, but, you know, there's the whole...
I mean, seriously, how selfish and petty can they be to cancel my sweet boys goodbye after 6 dang years on that stupid primary school? You need to do something about it.
My mom: Entitled mom, there isn't anything I can do. The school already closed for the rest of the school year. Maybe we could organize something after.
No, we can't let our kids go to middle school without a proper graduation. It's simply illogical why the school would decide to...
At this point, my mom had enough. My mom: Listen, we can't do anything about it right now. Schools are closed. Your kid can't have a party to celebrate going through the basic studies? Well, so sad. But I'm turning 40. My daughter is turning 15, and we can't have a nice quinceañera. My parents-in-law couldn't celebrate their 50th anniversary with the family. My nephew isn't having his college graduation, and my family was coming to visit all of us after not being able to see them since last year. But you know what? Life is more than just parties. And right now, with everything going on, there's absolutely nothing we can do without risking someone getting sick. And if you've got a problem with... Entitled mom interrupted, and I seriously don't think I'll ever listen to anything remotely as stupid as what she said for the rest of my life.
Wait, what do you mean, sickness?
Suddenly, there was silence in the room. We all stared at the phone. Then my mom, with the straightest face she could muster, answered, "The sickness? The reason we've all been on lockdown for the last 2 months? Why there's online classes and everything is closed?"
Wait, so this isn't just a school thing? I thought school closed because of not having enough staff or something.
My mom: You know what? Forget it. You must be bored with your only kid right now to call me for something that stupid. I'm not here to receive your stupid complaints. Good luck and have a good day. Then she hung up. We all stared at her for a couple more seconds, a bewildered look on her until she cracked up. We all laughed for a good minute right there. What the heck did she think was going on in the world right now? Did she really believe that the school just decided to put their students at home and not allow them to go out or something? And what kind of bubble does she live in? I think I may have found the stupidest Karen in existence. Wow, that Karen still doesn't know what's been going on? Wish I was as smart as she is. Oh, don't feel bad, Mr. Reddit. Most peasants like you and your viewers can't help how stupid you are. Man-child threw 3 large drinks at my feet in front of his wife. I had been walking food out of our delivery door. We have a fancy automatic door instead of a window for drive-thru. So 7 hours in 90-degree heat serving 200 plus cars an hour when our star, this balding 40-year-old jerk, pulls up, blocking other customers from exiting. I got the wrong drinks. I quickly ran to his car to help and handle things. I started to tell him we'd happily replace his drinks for free and he could keep those. But he interrupted me, gesturing the cup carrier at me and loudly yelling how they were wrong and he didn't want them. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. We can't take anything back from customers due to our health policy, but I'd be happy to… What the heck? Well, I don't want these dang drinks. Yes, sir, I understand, but I'm not permitted to take anything back from customers. I'll happily give you… Well, this is BS. I'm not keeping these. He then proceeds to, one at a time, take each large drink out of the cup holder and throw each one at my feet. His wife saying something along the lines of, "Oh, sweetie, no, honey," the whole time. If there's one thing I'm good at my job, it's staying calm and polite in front of humans like this. I kept my composure and let him throw all 3 drinks before looking back up at him. Well, sir, if you had let me finish, I was going to inform you I'd be happy to give you your proper drinks for free. What were your drinks again? He kinda stopped for a second, cause I assume he was expecting a reaction from his childish tantrum, but sunk cost fallacy had him quickly back to raging. I went to grab his proper drinks, and my coworker stopped me from taking them so she could take them and give him the most passive-aggressive, "Have a blessed day, sir," I've ever been fortunate enough to witness. I'm lucky to have some great coworkers who helped calm me down afterwards. Though I didn't show it, my heart was going 150 beats per minute and I was dang fuming. So I just wanted to ask him, "You're an adult, right?" in a calm voice and see what would happen. There is no moral to the story or happy ending really. Forget customers and forget the man-child who threw his only 3 brain cells out his window with those 3 drinks at my feet like a toddler, all in front of his poor wife. What kind of person throws drinks at someone like that? You'd be surprised what it takes to get decent customer service these days. Oh, shut it, Karen. How dare you? By the way, speaking of drinks, what's your favorite drink of all time? Please let me know. I can only do my work? Okay. I used to work at a famous place that dispenses medications. I'm sure many of you have one. For more serious chronic conditions, medications were delivered to patients instead of picked up. That's really the only thing you need to know. I worked in the insurance authorization portion. For non-Americans, that basically means I was responsible for trying to get the insurance coverages to actually pay for the medications many of these people needed to live their lives. Yes, it's stupid and inefficient, and if anyone is familiar with insurance work, you know it's 1. Basically thankless, 2. Usually involves having to be on the phone a lot, and 3. Is always behind. Number 3 is the important part. Supervisors at the job didn't like me much because I questioned a lot of stuff and tried to make things more efficient. However, because of their own set of rules and metrics, they couldn't really ding me on a lot of stuff because I always performed well in performance reviews. Perhaps that is also a form of malicious compliance? Now, to the part where the malicious compliance comes in. My supervisors and I weren't exactly pals, a story for another time, but many of my coworkers absolutely loved me, and whenever I could help out with their workloads, I would. For most of my time there, I did my own work, helped out 2 other coworkers with their blessing, helped out other coworkers when they complained about being overwhelmed, and managed to stay fully abreast on all the work. One day though, Supervisor A comes to me and said, "Hey, Yarn and Metal, you need to focus on your own work." What do you mean, Supervisor A? I'm completely caught up and waiting on a lot of responses. You need to stop helping your coworkers out, Yarn and Metal. They've got their work assigned, you've got yours. Just focus on what you've got. Okay, Supervisor A, you want me to focus on my own stuff? You got it. I warned the coworkers I was helping that Supervisor A was telling me not to help them anymore. transferred all the work I had helped with back to the original owners, and spent time working on writing things down with pen and paper. Not 2 days later, Supervisor A and her counterpart, Supervisor B, come in and were questioning my coworkers about why their workloads were suddenly so much larger. Several of them apparently gave the same answer. Yarn and metal was helping keep our queues lowered. A day after that, we went into mandatory overtime because things had gotten too busy for regular hours. Both supervisors walked by my desk several times. Open floor desk plans are the worst. But since I was demurely either writing something down by hand or had my own work queue conspicuously open to where they could indeed see I was fully caught up with everything typically assigned to me, they were not able to say a single word. I'm so glad I'm out of that job now. Bonus is that the job paid me for several hours of work where I was actually writing down story ideas, grocery lists, to-do lists, and getting my resume in order. Have you ever felt like a supervisor was holding you back by not letting you work more efficiently? I felt like that every day during my time in the Army.
Silence, Mr. Reddit. Supervisors always know what's best. It's you peasants that don't know anything.
I can't groom your dog at a salon I don't work at. So I'm a dog groomer for a fairly well-known pet store that also offers grooming. We'll call it Pet Park. A mile away is another well-known pet store that offers grooming. We'll call them Pet Go. People confuse our stores all the time, and a good number of clients bounce between our stores for grooming appointments. Most of my clients know me well as I have bright blue hair, and most people have heard about me from word of mouth as the groomer with the blue hair. This is just to set the stage. While I work for Pet Park, Pet Go has better choices for collars and harnesses, so I tend to go there to find nice things for my fur babies. Today, I got off work early, so I made the 5-minute trip to Pet Go to grab a new harness for my youngest kitty. He grew out of his. So I'm looking over the choices for cat harnesses and comparing two I like when I hear somebody clear their throat behind me. Like anybody else would, I assume that I'm in somebody's way, so I scoot to the side with a quick, "My bad." I hear a scoffing noise and a rather annoyed, "Excuse me?" So I look up. There's a fairly large lady standing there who is the exact picture of a Karen, down to the sunglasses, large purse, bob hair, hand on her hip, and angry face. She's got a cute little dachshund on a leash at her feet. Karen: "You groom dogs, right? You're a groomer? I've seen you before, I'm pretty sure." Me: Yeah, I am." She cuts me off. "My dog needs a nail trim. He's scratching my legs up, and I'm tired of it." Me, putting on my helpful voice: "Oh, all right. I don't know if PetGo is doing nail trims right now, but you can go in their salon and ask. His nails are pretty long." "They're all busy right now, so I need you to do his nails." For a few seconds, I'm quiet, confused, before it clicks in my head. Me: "Oh, I can't do his nails. I'm sorry. I don't work here." "But you're a groomer. I've seen you groom before. Don't lie." "I am a groomer, but not at this location. I can't." She cuts me off again. "It doesn't matter. You're a groomer. You can take him. Go in there and do his nails. It won't take you long or anything." Me: "I don't work here. I can't just go into their salon and do his nails. If you bring him to Pet Park, I'd be happy to do his nails. But I'm not going all that way just for a nail grind." It's literally 5 minutes away. "Just take him and do his nails. I'm not going to argue with you about this. Do your job." She then tries shoving her dog's leash at me, like I'm supposed to just take the dog and do his nails in a salon I don't work at. I stare at her and then do the only thing I can think of. I just turn, put the harnesses back, and walk away without another word, figuring that would end things. Nope. This lady must have been the Flash in disguise because she shuffles up so fast, gets in front of me, and again tries shoving her leash at me. And now she's screaming and red in the face. I back away a little. "How dare you walk away from me, you little brat! Now you're going to take my boy. You're going to do his nails, and you're not going to charge me for it for being such an unhelpful little punk. I don't care if you're on break or whatever. You're a groomer, and you are going to do his nails." Me, dropping the helpful voice because now I'm getting really annoyed. "I don't work here. I couldn't groom him here even if I wanted to." I'm cut off again by her screaming. "Don't talk back to me. Do my dog, now!" At this point, a Petco associate was already rushing over, having heard her yelling at me, though she was raising her voice early on. We'll call him PA for Petco associate. Associate. Excuse me, can I help you two with something? You can get me your manager. Your groomer refuses to do my dog's nails, and that's their job. The associate looks at me for a few seconds, obviously not recognizing me. Associate. They don't work here. They aren't one of our groomers. Ugh, that doesn't matter. They are a groomer. They need to do my dog now. Get me your manager. Associate doesn't have to do anything because a floor manager is now walking up. I know this person as he used to work at our store as a cashier, and we were fairly friendly. We'll call him Ben. Ben. What seems to be the issue here? Ma'am, please lower your voice. I'll lower my voice when your groomer does their dang job. They are refusing to do my dog's nails, and I demand that they do his nails, and that you do not charge me for this inconvenience. At this point, Ben looks over and notices me. I give him a small wave. Ben. Oh, hey, Weaving Blade. He turns to Crazy Lady. Ma'am, they don't work here. They aren't authorized to work in the salon. You'll have to go into the salon. This is ridiculous. His nails need to be done, and somebody is going to do them and do them now. Ben. Ma'am, if you don't lower your voice, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. The salon associates will be happy to do your nails if you don't tell me what to do. You need to do your job and have somebody do his nails, and I better not get charged. At this point, myself and associate have started edging away as she's screaming at Ben, who's doing his best to help her, and I escape into a dog food aisle. I can see the salon as well as a few groomers that came from our store, so I decide to pop over for a quick hello while she's out on the floor screaming her head off at Ben about me. Turns out the reason she wouldn't just go into the salon is because she's been banned. Not for her attitude apparently, but because the dog is a holy terror for his nails. Go figure. By the time I said my goodbyes and scooted out, security was coming in to escort this screaming lady and her little dog out of the store. I don't know what happened to her afterwards because I quickly hopped on my trike and rode off. Sorry this isn't a better tale that ends with the Karen getting arrested, but I wanted to share my first I don't work here lady experience. Let's hope it's the last. Do any of you guys have dogs at home? If so, what kind? Please let me know. I have a poodle and a chihuahua, and if any of you come near them, I will end you. The funniest thing you will hear all day. I swear, this happened like an hour ago, and I cannot stop laughing. Like, not giggling, but full out bursting with laughter. This morning, my mom, grandma, and I went out to eat lunch. Just mentioning that to set the scene, but it all really started after we left and started the drive home. My grandma thinks she knows everything. You can't tell her anything different without her picking a fight because she's right, of course, and she'll tune out every other word you say because she's so into what she's thinking is right. Anyway, my grandma went to a 5-minute oil change place a few weeks ago, and today, while on the drive home, she realizes there was a coupon she could have used. Apparently, she was looking at the wrong coupon because she called the oil change place to complain about her not getting the half off when she had already gotten the 25% off that she used. The guy explained that he was looking at their records about it and that she had come in the day after the coupon had expired and so she couldn't use it. That doesn't go well with her, and she tries arguing about how the coupon isn't supposed to be done for another month, not realizing she's looking at a different coupon for something else. Anyway, then she says those dreaded words which made me think to put it on here. Can I speak to your manager? The guy tried explaining he was the manager, but apparently she's tuning him out and he's clearly getting frustrated when she asks 3 times for a manager. He finally goes and gets the other guy, his co-manager or whatever, to talk to her. While they're waiting, Grandma makes a very poor joke about how they're probably just gonna get someone else to play manager so they don't get in trouble. But lo and behold, the other guy explains the same thing the first guy did. Grandma gets mad and is talking to my mom, not realizing the guy was still on the phone. Says she'll just have to call corporate office on them. Then she finally hangs up the phone herself. Apparently, she wanted to accuse them of stealing money or not honoring coupons or something. Story's not over yet. This is where the gut-bursting laughing part comes in. So my grandma is apparently unable to look stuff up herself online. She does everything else, but apparently she can't understand it's very simple to type something into Google. Barely 10 seconds after hanging up on them, she talks to Siri like it's a person, even saying please and thank you afterward when it's just a computer, not an actual person. Anyway, she asks Siri for the number to the office. Siri can never understand her though, and always does the wrong thing she's trying to do. Never stops her from using it again. Siri goes, "I have the corporate office number for the salad station," which for those who don't know is a restaurant near where I live. My mom chuckles and makes a joke about how grandma could always just order a salad. I laugh a little, listening with half an ear, but more interested in playing games on my phone. Grandma laughs, but apparently didn't know what the joke meant because she then proceeded to leave a message for the corporate office for the salad station, explaining her difficulties with the oil change place. It was a 10-minute ride home lift at this point, and Mom and I were laughing so hard we literally could not breathe. We get home and Grandma left making a comment on her way. Apparently, she thought we were laughing because she actually called corporate. She left us in the car laughing, and we couldn't even tell her we were laughing because she complained about one business to a completely separate business. I honestly don't know if we'll bother telling her next time she comes back, but we probably will eventually since she lives next door and eats out with us several times a week. She'll probably just think we're messing with her, but I haven't laughed so hard in forever. Funniest call ever, and she was completely serious and stern on her message. There are going to be some very confused people who probably heard us laughing in the background whenever they answer that message. You know what, Karen? Their grandma really reminds me of you. Oh, thank you, darling. Doesn't she sound amazing? Trash goes into the trash compactor. I work the back end of a big box store, and since the trash compactor and cardboard baler is in my workplace, I normally have to clean up after the people who refuse to throw the trash away. Most are good, but some dump it right in front of the right receptacle and say, "I was told to bring it back here, not throw it away." I am a little OCD over my workspace, so I normally throw it away regardless, but if I can chew them out, I will. Unfortunately, I can't yell at the night crew, who has routinely dumped multiple carts worth of trash and cardboard in the middle of my already small work floor for the past couple of weeks. Long story short, the team leader is not entirely qualified to fill his position, and all of his bad habits are slowly becoming the whole night crew's bad habits. We have tried emailing him, and the guy who comes in at the crack of dawn has talked to him face to face about him needing to clean up his mess, but that went over like a lead balloon. He wrote us and the managers back saying it was our fault for not helping him out to get the jobs done, so he has to leave all of his work half done. Whatever, not even the managers are buying it, but they let it slide. In the end, we got one final email from him saying something along the lines of, "If you see my trash there in the morning, just throw it away." Well, he shouldn't have said that, because last week I found something juicy. Among the normal trash they leave there was some work supplies, gloves and box cutters, but at the bottom of it all was his spreadsheets. To explain, our company has been throwing money at us to keep working during this time, bonuses bi-weekly. But since they don't have an electronic system yet to track these new bonuses, they have relied on paper sheets filled out by the department heads and sent somewhere up in management for approval. We have known for weeks he has been cooking the books to make him look better on these timesheets and getting a bigger bonus for nothing. I thought about sending this to management, but then I remembered, just throw his trash away. Got it. The problem was, he had to get that paperwork turned in by midnight that night, or he and his team would lose out on their bonuses. Too bad, he was scheduled that night for midnight and is notorious for being fashionably late. I felt bad for everyone not getting their bonuses, but it seems to have turned out in all of our favors. The fallout. Monday. I come in and get talked to by one of our managers, asking if I've seen any documents left in the back. I tell him all of our paperwork gets filed away in the filing cabinets. He tells me that's not what he's looking for, and if I hadn't seen it yet, to let him know when I do. Why? Because night team leader says that he lost them or that they were stolen or something stupid. So now there's an investigation going on. Crap. Oh well, I got another job starting here in a couple of weeks. I'll just roll with it and see what happens. I did talk to one of the girls on the night crew. She comes in early to set everything up for them to work. She didn't seem to know anything about not getting a bonus, but I didn't bring up that the timesheets were missing. Just ask her how the bonuses were going, and she said she was expecting a big one this week. Sorry, honey. Tuesday, I got news from the same manager that when they checked the security cameras, they lost sight of it about halfway through the night, so they have no idea where it could be. Nice for me. Also, since they were hurting for hours, they bumped me up from part-time to full-time. Double nice. I talked to the same night crew girl, and she now knew she wasn't getting the bonus. She was upset and kept saying, "I know the team leader is at fault here. He says he isn't getting a bonus, but I bet he just switched everything around and is getting our money." Keep telling yourself that, dear. But now her and all the other girls on the night crew were going to get together and bring up harassment charges against him since they have been dealing with him not working and saying inappropriate things to them all night instead. Convenient? Wednesday. He was caught working overtime, which normally is fine, but you have to get approved on it, which he didn't. Apparently, they're going to look back at his previous time punches and check to see if he had been punching in and out correctly and not stealing company time. I wish I could have talked to him that day just to say, "Dude, stop bringing attention to yourself." As of today, all I heard is that suddenly he is taking the last of his paid vacation and will be gone for the next 6 weeks. Unfortunately for him, the investigation is still ongoing, and if they come up with anything, he won't have a job when he comes back. Also, a little birdie told me his wife heard about the harassment investigation and isn't planning on sticking around with him since this is the second time this has happened. Dude, all you had to do was throw away your trash. Sometimes we all forget to do things, like throw our trash away, or smash that like button for Mr. Redhead. Oh, that was good. Entitled mom pulls kids out of preschool because she thinks we're accusing her of spreading lice. So, I work in a preschool, and you would think I get a lot of interaction with entitled parents, but honestly I don't. Most of our parents are great and willing to work with us to help their kids in the best ways possible. This was not one of those parents. In light of what's going on, quite a few of our parents made the decision to pull their kids, whether they had lost their jobs or were working from home or had someone immunocompromised at home. Wise decisions that I don't blame them for, but left many seats open for more kids to be enrolled. Cast. We've got entitled mom, we've got the boy, we've got the girl, we've got the director of the preschool, basically in charge of everything when the owner isn't around. So entitled mom calls and enrolls her 2 kids in the school, a 5-year-old boy and a 2, almost 3-year-old girl. Bad kids. Boy tries to run out of the school after his mom. Had to carry around a blanket, not allowed, and refuses to eat the food we provide and behaved worse than our 1-year-olds. Girl was a bit better, prone to the same temper tantrums, hitting, and had to carry around a baby Moana doll, also not allowed. We gave her the benefit of the doubt though. Entitled mom claims there was no way, but she very clearly displayed signs of being on the autism spectrum. Either way, they're here for about a week, give or take a few days, for boy who refused to come and was kept home with someone else, when the girl is one of our multiple kids who got sent home with nits. Now, according to our latest DCF, Department of Children and Families, check-in, we are one of the cleanest still operating childcare facilities in the country. However, in any childcare environment, lice is an inevitable consequence of having a whole bunch of kids around. It's no fault of anybody's, it's just a fact of life. Most parents understand that. The procedure for any isolated case of lice is that when the kid returns to school, the parent must give proof that their kid was treated, a picture or receipt for the bottle of treatment, the recipe for a home remedy, etc. The kid is checked to make sure they're clean, everything is documented, and life goes on. So it's the next day, and entitled mom, the boy, and the girl are some of the first few kids in the door, despite being the last to go home. Entitled mom shows director a video on her phone of her treating the girl's head. Director: "You're going to have to send me that so I can figure out how to add it to the documentation." Entitled mom starts getting angry at this point. I come back from making my breakfast smoothie in the kitchen and sign the kids in and escort them to their seats, taking their blankets and putting them in their cubbies and keeping the boy from trying to get up and run out of the door while director explains the next steps to entitled mom. Director: "So we had kids from 7 different families sent home with lice yesterday. Any more than 2 and I have to call the health department." Entitled mom getting tense. "What? I don't understand. You need to explain." At this point, director clears her throat and takes a drink of water. This sets entitled mom off further for some reason. Director: "We had kids from 7 different families sent home with nits yesterday. That is considered an epidemic. For the next 18 days, we have to do daily head checks and monitor the number of kids with lice. If the number goes down, we're all good. But if the number goes up, the health department will get involved and go to the houses of the kids with lice to rule them out as the source of the bugs before the blame is shifted to us as a facility. Entitled Mom storms over and yanks girl out of her chair by the arm. Oh no, my kids are not going to stay here. You're not going to get an attitude with me and accuse my kids of causing all this. Director, ma'am, what are you talking about? That's not at all what I meant. You know what I'm talking about. You've been extremely rude to me, and you're accusing me of bringing lice here, and I'm leaving. Let's go, son. Director, wait! Entitled Mom, have a nice day. Slams the door behind her. This was 2 days ago. As far as I know, none of the staff have heard from her since. It's a shame. Girl is adorable despite her tantrums, and I'll kind of miss her. I sincerely hope Entitled Mom wakes up and realizes she's very likely on the spectrum and is able to adapt to her needs. Have you or anyone you know ever had lice? And how would you have responded if you were in this position? Would you feel accused like Karen felt? That director needs to be fired. I want to speak to her manager. I'm told to clean the table when I'm not on, and I end up teaching a guy some manners. So a long time ago, I worked at Denny's. Most underappreciated, overworking, underpaying job ever. Glad I left when I did. As a services assistant. This basically means I'm the janitor and the dishwasher. The work itself was okay, and I was friends with the majority of my coworkers, but the hours were terrible. Pitch black morning hours and being on call, and I eventually had fewer than 20 a week, so I left when I found a new job. As is part of my expected job duties, I am supposed to clear tables with a tote and spray it off with disinfectant, cleaning it as needed as well. This is actually very much the waiting staff's job, as they are supposed to do it. But that part of the job got shuffled down to us because, I don't know, work more and let the waiting staff get the tips for our work? Anyways, there was this Hispanic guy with glasses who would come in just about every day with a man in a wheelchair in tow. Not sure if they were friends or he was the caretaker or what, but the wheelchair guy had a favorite table that he wanted just about always. And anytime the table wasn't clear or looked shiny, the guy would walk up to an employee, often going behind the breakfast bar, or even one time behind the doors to the kitchen, which is not allowed and a severe danger if you're not wearing non-slip shoes, and demand that we clean the favorite table at once, even if we were trying to send him to another table. Nuh-uh, this table, every time, shiny and perfect, and no tip to anyone. Anyways, I did what I could to keep up on all tables, making sure they were clean and sprayed off before more people would be set there. But often enough, the charming man and his friend in the wheelchair would enter when I was on break or lunch hour, and I would usually spend my lunch/break with my apron, name tag, and cap off, sitting at a chair at this small breakfast bar in the corner, whether I was eating, playing on my phone, or just enjoying the sensation of being off my feet for a bit. As a result, I still looked like an employee, despite the obvious lack of uniform and that I was not working at the moment, albeit a lazy one. So this would happen if the table was not clean. The guy and the wheelchair man came in, and I was on break. He'd straight up walk over to me and put his hands on his hips, clear his throat, and widen his eyes when he made eye contact with me. This is just one of the ways these exchanges would go. Guy. Me, looking up from my phone, often while eating. Yes? Guy. Our table is not clean. Me. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I can see about getting someone to come over and… Guy, matter-of-factly. You'll do it, now. Me, dumbfounded. I'm afraid I can't, sir. Guy, irritated. Sure you can. We don't have all day. Me, irritated too. I'm on my break/lunch. When that is the case, I won't work. Not because I don't want to. I'm not legally allowed to. Guy, sputtering. Oh, please. You're not on break. You just don't want to work. Me. I actually am on my break, sir. Labor laws dictate that I can get in trouble if I work on my break. I've offered to take time out of my break to flag someone down for you. Just clean the table for us. We need to eat. Me, pointing to another corner of the restaurant. There's a waiter over there. He'll help you. As I said, I can't work right now. Guy, getting angry. Why can't you just clean the table for us? It takes like 1 minute. This is something I've actually told him at one point. Me, not caring anymore about his feelings. Even if I could clean the table for you on my break, that would mean less time for my break, and I don't really appreciate being told I am lazy and how to do my job. And the matter of time it has taken for you to hound me about cleaning this table for you, you could have flagged someone else down, and you'd likely have gotten drinks by now. I've pointed out a waiter for you. If you are insistent on getting that specific table, you'll have to reach out to him and ask him. Guy smirking as he pulls out what he thinks is his trump card. I'll be sure to let your manager know about this. Me, being honest, I invite you to. He then scoffs, realizing his threat didn't bully me into being his butler. Oh, I'm so sorry, Your Highness. I see him wander off to seek someone else. He had told a manager, but I was off the hook since he rarely ever waited to be seated when people were supposed to, and I was one of the higher service assistants at the time. That's not even the worst he's done. That's just one example. At one point, I was off my shift and waiting for someone to pick me up for a movie after I got off. It was somewhat busy, so more than half the restaurant was full with customers. I sat in the breakfast bar, uniform completely off and a set of street clothes in its place. I was munching on a quick appetizer I bought with my discount since I hadn't eaten for a while messing around on my phone. And who should walk in but my #1 fan and his friend in a wheelchair. His favorite table was taken at the time though, so he uncomfortably waited at the entrance for the table to vacate. As he was waiting, he and I caught eye contact. Remember, at this time I'm wearing attire that is not the uniform and there is no reason to think I am. As far as my managers and labor law was concerned, I was a customer like any other right now. The moment the table was vacant, he would, of course, take his buddy in the wheelchair and dart for the table. But, of course, the dirty plates and stuff were still on the table, since a waiter hadn't gotten to the table yet. And the second he realized it, guess who he approached to ask to clean it for him? I was already mentally preparing myself to be insulted and then tattled on to a manager. I decided to ignore him. I was in no mood for his disrespect. Guy. Hey. Me, ignoring him. Guy. Hey, you. Me, still ignoring him. Excuse me. Actually tapped my shoulder hard with his finger. Me, reluctantly facing him with my teeth gritting from him actually getting physical. What? Guy. Our table needs to be cleaned. Me, deciding to take a more arrogant approach this time since I wasn't actually on the clock. I'm sure there are some waiters that would be happy to clean it off for you as soon as they get a chance. See if you can flag one down. Guy. Clean our table for us. Me. I'm not on right now. I don't care if you're on your break or whatever. Clean it now. At this point, people were noticing and watching. Me, slowly turning around and facing him. I am not on right now. Just clean our table. I've got no time for this. Me. I will not clean your table, since I am just a customer right now, same as you, and go ahead and report me to the manager. They will tell you to leave me alone since I am not an employee at the moment. But we need to eat. We're in a rush, and no one else will do it for us. You have to. Me. That's really unfortunate. However, if you're in a rush and need to eat, there's a few convenience stores and fast food places down the street where you can get food quickly. And again, I am not working right now. I'm a customer. At this point, my ride arrived and I saw his car through the window. I took a last bite of the food and stood up to leave, but Guy tried to block my path. Guy starting to get desperate. Look, just clean our table. Please, I know you can. Me. Oh, that's too bad. My ride actually just got here, hence why I am leaving. And for the last time, I'm not an employee right now. I stepped around him, having had enough. Should be it, right? Wrong. Guy. Hey! He actually grabs me by the back of my shirt collar and tries to yank me backwards. I should mention I am a green belt in Kung Fu. I know how to defend myself. Out of reflex, I stomp one foot behind me, spin to the left while putting my left arm behind me, twirling it in a circle to grab his wrist. At the same time, I used my right hand and put pressure on his upper arm while holding his wrist with my left and pushed it down. Basically, I caught his arm and was bending it against the elbow. He was startled by the move and sudden reflex and started squealing at the counter I just did. I let him go after I thought my point got across. After I let him go, he just looked at me with absolute bewilderment, like he thought I was crazy. Before he could get a manager to stop me from leaving, I was already out the door. The next time I came into work, I was met by my manager who was eager to discuss what happened that day. I explained that I was just acting in self-defense and I only put his arm in that lock because he would not leave me alone, and he was demanding that I work even when I was off. I also told him this was not the first time he tried to make me do that. At that, my manager seemed to calm down a bit, even though he did let me know that guy had, in fact, tried to get the police involved. I told him that the cameras should have picked up everything that happened and that he grabbed me first. Me locking his arm was done reflexively. He still told me to try to avoid physical contact with other customers in the restaurant, whether I am on duty or not. I understood and apologized for it. Ever since that day, whenever Guy saw me, on duty or not, he would whisper to his buddy in the wheelchair, but would steer clear of me. I was fine with that. Some people just have to learn the hard way. Speaking of Denny's, what's your favorite restaurant of all time? Please let me know. My favorite part about restaurants is leaving bad Yelp reviews. Entitled Grandpa crashes into our car, then attacks us. Cast. We've got me. We've got Entitled Grandpa. We've got Mom, Brother, Brother's Friend, Officers 1 and 2. So this happened last summer of 2019. My mom and I were taking my friend's brother back to his parents' house after a week-long sleepover. I was sitting in the front. I came because I needed to head into my brother's friend's house to get my retainer case, which I forgot last time I went there. Also, we had a Honda Civic until this incident. So we were about halfway there when we came to an intersection. There are cameras on the lights, this is important for later, and we were waiting for the light to turn green. And when it did, we started crossing the intersection. And when we were almost through the intersection, this trashy driver, our entitled grandpa of the story, sped right into us, going at most likely 65 miles per hour. We swerved into the side of the road and landed with a huge jolt of force. Believe it or not, no one inside or outside the car was hurt. Not even the airbags went off, thank goodness. Though through the side mirror, I could see that the right bottom side of the car was totaled. The light was destroyed, the trunk window was completely cracked, the bumper was dented and half off, the car's bottom right area was pretty much completely obliterated. My mom got out of the car and stormed over to the entitled grandpa's car. I got out too and started recording on my phone camera. The entitled grandpa, about 65 or 70, got out of his car approaching my mom, and we could see a 5 or 6-year-old, also not hurt but very shaken up, sitting in the back seat of their car. This is what happened next. Entitled Grandpa. Look what you did, you dumb jerk. You wrecked my car. Mom. Look what I did. First of all, you crashed into me. Second of all, it was our green light. It was not. Clearly not aware that 7 other cars were passing at the same time as my mom. It was my green light. I swear. Some people nowadays have no clue on where their place is. Note that this whole time he's been slurring his words and swaying a little, clearly drunk. Mom. What did you say? Entitled Grandpa. You heard me, jerk. He then slaps her, leaving a red handprint on her left cheek, causing her to start crying. Now, I'm a pretty mellow guy, but when somebody messes around with something or someone that means a lot to me, especially when they get physical, I completely lose it. Not caring how old this guy was, I ran up to him, still holding the phone and recording, shove him using one hand, causing him to fall on his bum. Me. Never, and I mean never, lay a single finger on my mom again, jerk. You hear me? Before he could say anything, 2 cop cars and an ambulance pull into the scene. 2 cops are telling people to back up when the other 2 come up to me and my mom while the 2 ambulance drivers pick up the entitled grandpa. And Officer 1. Is everything okay here? Officer 2. Yeah, we got a call about... He then looks at my mom. Miss, are you okay? Me. That jerk, I point to entitled grandpa, crashed into us and slapped her. He's just lucky you got here in time. Mom. Yes, that's true. That's what happened. Fast forward about 10 minutes, and the police have 1. Talked to entitled grandpa, witnesses, me, my mom, my brother, and his friend, and 2. Checked the recording on my phone and the traffic light footage. So the 2 officers come up to us and say, Officer 1, would you like to press charges? Me and Mom. Yes. Officer 2, entitled Grandpa, you're under arrest for assault, reckless driving, DUI, disorderly conduct, and destruction of property. He then slaps cuffs on entitled Grandpa and reads him his rights and brings him to the squad car. Officer 2, do you have insurance that you can present? Entitled Grandpa sheepishly. No. Officer 2,
All right, then that adds to the charges, driving without insurance. The police called the girl's parents and they came and picked her up, apologizing profusely to the police and my mom. So, long story short, entitled grandpa was 1. Sued by my parents. They won, by the way. 2. Got his license permanently revoked. And 3. Given a fine of $1,500. We didn't have our car fixed because my mom traded it and $25,000 for a new Porsche. So everything turned out great. Thanks for reading. That's scary. I'm just glad everyone was okay.
It's too bad Grandpa didn't get hurt. He deserved it.
Karen mistakes me for an employee. Plot twist, I'm a police officer. I've been watching a lot of Mr. Reddit's videos on the Tube of You. He's now one of my favorite Reddit tubers, so I figured I'd share this story that happened a few months ago. I'm 26 years old, and I'm a police officer who normally works night shift, 1800 to 0600. On this particular day, I was in a training class that was scheduled from 0800 to 1700. Standard uniform attire for classes are the blue polo shirt with department logo on chest and khaki pants. I had my service weapon and badge on the right side of my hip and my handcuffs, extra magazine, and radio on the left side of my hip. After the class ended, I went to my local supermarket, known for low prices and blue shirts, to get some things for dinner. While I'm there, a little kid who looked to be around 9 to 10 years old walks up to me. Kid asks me, "Are you a police officer?" while pointing to my service weapon. Me, "Yes, I am." Kid, "I want to be a police officer when I grow up." He says that with much excitement. When I'm in uniform, I always carry around little plastic badges for when I run into kids. So I stood there for a few minutes talking to the kid while his mother was shopping in the aisle. When they go to leave, I give the kid the plastic badge and say, "Here you go, little buddy. You're now a junior officer." He smiled big and gave me a hug. He was so excited and started saying in a sing-song tune, "I'm a cop, I'm a cop. I'm gonna get all the bad guys." Kid and his mom walk off and I go back to my shopping. I kneel down to look at some chips I'm thinking of getting when I hear someone clear their throat. I turn and see a lady, Karen, who looks to be in her early to mid-40s. The lady glares at me and I go back to looking at the chips. Karen,
Excuse me? Are you going to help me or not? I need to know where the...
I cut her off and said, "Ma'am, I don't work here. You'll have to find an employee."
Don't lie to me. You're dressed like an employee. You obviously work here.
Now, keep in mind, I'm not wearing the yellow vest most employees wear. I'm just wearing a blue polo shirt and khakis. I stand up and turn to her, showing my department logo on my shirt and pointing to my badge. Me, "Ma'am, I don't work here. I'm an off-duty officer." I don't understand what went through her mind when she said,
Stop lying. And why do you have a gun? You're not supposed to have a gun while working. Where's your manager?
I sighed. I've dealt with many Karens on duty, and I knew where this was going. Me, "Ma'am, I don't work here. My supervisor is Sergeant Dan, not his real name, with the department. I do not work for the store." At this point, Karen looks mad and is staring at me like I'm lying to her. Karen then yells,
You lying little jerk. I swear, all people your age are just lazy and never want to help anyone. I want your manager. Now!
I, again, inform her that I don't work for the business. I even pull out my credentials, which is a photo identification card of me in uniform with the department name and logo and has officer under my photo. It should also be noted that I keep my driver's license and debit card and my credentials since I have to have them on me at all times when I'm in public. Just makes it easier to keep everything together. Karen snatches my credentials out of my hand and stuffs them into her purse and says,
These are fake. I'm taking these and showing them to your manager and the real police.
Me, "Ma'am, you've just committed simple robbery," which in my state is the taking of anything of value which is in the immediate control of another, with force, but not armed with a dangerous weapon. This crime is a felony and punishable by up to 7 years in prison. Return my credentials now, or I will be forced to place you under arrest.
You can't arrest me because you're not a cop.
I remove my radio from my hip and inform the dispatcher that I need units to my location for a Signal 65, simple robbery. Dispatcher acknowledges, and I hear 3 units state they were en route. I place my radio back on my hip and tell Karen that she is now being placed under arrest. As I go to grab her left wrist, she slaps me with her right hand saying,
Don't touch me. Help! I'm being attacked.
I yell at her, You have now committed battery on a police officer. Stop resisting or you will go to the ground. I noticed people are now forming, wondering what was going on. I hear on the radio that the units are on scene and asking for my location. I press the radio button and give them my aisle. A few moments later, 3 fully uniformed officers show up. Officer 1 asks me what happened. I give him the rundown while Karen is spewing all sorts of lies of how I threatened her and how I had attacked her to Officer 2. Officers 1 and 2 stay with us while Officer 3 goes to the security office to play back the cameras. While waiting on Officer 3, I'm chit-chatting with the other 2 officers. I went through the police academy with one of them. We hear Officer 3 saying over the radio to the other 2 officers to 1015 Karen, which means place her in handcuffs and arrest her. The 2 officers do so, and they're placing her in handcuffs and reading her Miranda rights. She starts struggling and saying that she's innocent and that they should be arresting me for pretending to be a cop and attacking her, and yada yada yada. Officer 1, lady, we have you on video. You've been lying to us this whole time. You're under arrest for simple robbery, battery on a police officer, disturbing the peace, and now resisting arrest. Officer 2, you have the right to remain silent. I highly suggest you use it. Officer 3 walks up to us with a copy of the camera footage, and all 3 walk Karen to the back seat of Officer 1's car. I spend the next few minutes explaining to the sergeant on duty who showed up about what happened, filling out a statement of the incident, and having photographs taken. The photographs are standard procedure whenever we arrest someone for battery on an officer. Once everything was said and done, my credentials are returned to me, Karen is taken to jail, and I go home. I'm never stopping at that business again when I'm wearing my training class uniform. And for those who might want to know about her charges and how much time she can face in jail or prison, I'll put the list below. I'll add if it's misdemeanor or felony too. This lady is looking at 8 years and 90 days in prison, but that is max sentencing. She'll probably get a super low sentence. DA's office will probably drop the simple robbery charge. I'll update this in a few months when I hear from the DA's office. The misdemeanor battery on a police officer is due to there being no injury on me. If there was an injury on me, she would have been charged with a felony, which has a sentence of 1 year to 5 years. Update. I heard from the DA's office yesterday. Didn't have time to update due to work, but here we go. The ADA asked if I would drop the simple robbery charge to a misdemeanor theft, which is up to 6 months in jail. Figuring this lady has no previous record, I agreed to it. They also dropped the disturbing the peace charge and the misdemeanor battery of a police officer charge due to no injuries. Can't really object, but hey, it is what it is. So now she's facing up to a year in jail. ADA says that if she pleads guilty to the charges, she will get a plea deal where she'll have to spend a month in jail and the remainder on inactive probation, which just means she doesn't have to do a weekly/monthly check-in with a parole officer. If she doesn't plead guilty and it goes to trial, she'll have to serve the whole sentence. My money is on her taking the plea deal. Appreciate the love and support, y'all. Thanks a bunches. Looks like Karen really picked the wrong person to mess with this time. She did nothing wrong. If he had simply helped her, all of this could have been avoided. It's people like him that make the world such a terrible place. Good luck paying for the car. So this isn't my story. It happened to a friend of a friend, so exact details are difficult to get, but this is what I was told. For ease of story and to hide identities, the names I will use are Jack and Jill. Bit of backstory. Jack and Jill had been going out for nearly 5 years by the point of this story. A year prior, Jill lost her job due to the company she worked for being liquidated. Money got tight for Jill, so Jack offered to help by covering her car payments, monthly installment, road tax, insurance, and fuel, so she could put the money she got to rent and utilities until she got a new job and was financially stable. Jack had a fairly decent job, so it wasn't a strain on his income. A year goes by, and Jill is still unemployed, but not through rejections. She got lazy and spent all day doing nothing around her house whilst Jack was at work. One day, Jack gets off work early and decides to surprise Jill on the way back home, but as he is approaching her house, he sees another car in the driveway. He parks on the street and sneaks up to her house and looks through the window to see Jill with another man. Jack was angry, but he didn't burst in there. He walked away, got into his car, and drove off. When Jack got home, he did a little digging and found out who the guy was through Facebook and found she had been seeing this guy for a year and a half. He was now really upset and wanted revenge, and he knew the best way to do it. This is where the revenge comes in.
Jill loved her car, even though she barely used it. So what Jack did was stop all the payments that were going out of his bank account and put them onto her account. As the car was in her name, it was easy to do. As the payments had only just gone out, he had to wait for the end of the month for his revenge to unfold. The end of the month comes, and Jill's bank card is declined at the shops. She calls the bank up to find out what's going on, and they tell her she has been overdrawn because of the car payments going out of her account. Jill phoned Jack and asked why the payment is coming out of her accounts and not his. Jack coldly replied, "'Cause I know you cheated on me, and I'm not gonna pay for my ex-girlfriend's car," and hung up. Fallout of the revenge. She tried to get Jack to pay for the car, even got lawsuits involved, but as she was the sole owner of the car, it was declared he had no legal responsibility to pay for her car. As she couldn't afford her road tax or insurance, she couldn't drive the car, and eventually she got so far behind in the payments, the car was repossessed. To pay the debt, she had to get a minimum wage job and now takes the bus to and from work. Well, just goes to show you, cheaters never win. They sure don't. But you know who does? Who, Karen? Those who remember to smash that thumbs up for Mr. Reddit. Nice. Thanks, Karen. So, Karen, what did you think of today's stories? They were horrible. Horrible? How dare you? These were some of the best we've ever read. Oh, shut up, Mr. Reddit. It's ridiculous what people like myself have to go through, dealing with stupid people like yourself and your subscribers. Look, Karen, you can say whatever you want about me, but don't you talk about my re-army. Re-army. Most of your viewers aren't even subscribed to your channel. 70% if I'm correct. Well, I can't argue with that. That's true. Most of my viewers don't actually subscribe for some reason. It's because you're stupid, Mr. Reddit. No, I'm not. Alright guys, let's prove Karen wrong by making sure you're subscribed to the channel and turn on notifications. They're not going to listen to you. And if you'd like me, or Karen, to record a special message for you, come visit me on Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below. Never! And join as a channel member today, and Karen will give you a special shout out in the next video. Like heck I will!